Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Hey, witch, hey, ooh, it's spooky.
Can you do the spooky ghost noise?
Yeah, I can. And Avi's like, how do you do that? Do you remember those things that you're like in like CVS, like walking through the pharmacy as a kid, and you just hear like all the Halloween decorations going off, like the little hanging ghost? Yeah.
Happy Halloween!
That's my special hidden talent, by the way.
I love it.
Yeah. Everybody's like, do the ghost noise, do the ghost noise.
There's a door at one of the closets at work that you open it, but it doesn't like just swing open. It starts going. I'll have to get it on video next time. It's really funny.
Yeah. That's like, that noise is ingrained in my brain from the 90s.
Yeah. Nostalgically. You
Exactly.
can't unhear it.
So today, first of all, hey, witch, hey, I'm Justina.
I'm Christina. Welcome to Magnolia Street, where your one and only musically inspired practical magic fandom podcast.
Every week, we deep dive on different aspects of the movie and the books, as well as treat your ears to our very own practical magic inspired original music. And today, we want to wish all of our listeners and fellow witches a very blessed Samhain and happy Halloween. I just wanted to point out that this is our third Halloween Samhain episode.
That's really crazy because you and I started February 2022 with the music, right?
Yeah.
It was October 2022 when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, but we started like intro, like meet the Stinas. Like it wasn't a Halloween special episode. We just released it on Halloween because that was like our podcast kickoff. Yeah, but this is our second one that's, actually, I guess, Samhain related, since a lot of what we're going to be talking about today takes place on Samhain, the main part in the book about the Alchemy Tree, right?
I think our release was very fitting for the movie and the content and meeting us in the witches' new year, new us, new podcast. I think it was perfectly fitting. And 3, my number, it's going to be an amazing year.
Okay, That's really weird that you said that about the 3, because I can't believe, first of all, I can't believe that we're going on 3 seasons of twists and turns and rabbit holes.
Yes.
And there's no end in sight, right? There's like no end in sight. And I remember when we first started this, you were like, how much do we possibly have to talk about? This is going to be like a limited time thing, right?
Yes, exactly. Little faith.
I don't see any end in sight. But it's really weird that you said that about the 3s, because Avi texted me this morning. This is the text that I wake up to from him. He goes, I just realized that I tend to subconsciously do everything in 3s when possible. And then he sent a witch emoji. And I was like, really? I think my husband's realizing he's a witch.
Yes. Oh my God. With his witch sticks.
With his Blair Witch sticks. If anybody's been following me on the Instagrams, if you're following me over on my personal account, Justina's World Official, you guys would have seen the whole past 2 weeks. He's been making Blair Witch sticks, and he hung them all on our front tree in front of our little, those little gauze witches that you put around the tree.
It's adorable.
He made a whole installation piece, and he set up a little floodlight, like a red floodlight, and he goes, after Halloween, I don't think I want to take these down. I want to be that house that the kids are afraid to go by.
I love him. He's so cute. Oh my God.
So he's like, when I count things, I count them in 3s. All of my sets at the gym are usually 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I usually shoot for 13 if I'm doing a set of 12. 2 makes me uneasy, and 3 makes me feel balanced, and 4 makes me uneasy.
Oh my goodness.
What
is his number?
Like his numerology number?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. I don't even know. 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 5 is 32. So he's a 5.
And you're a 4.
I'm not a 4. I think I'm no, 4 is just my
girl,
spirit.
You're a 4. We talked about this with Carol.
Wait,
Karen.
Am I a 4 or was I a 3?
I'm
Wait.
pretty sure you're
1 plus, okay, so 12. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 3. 2 plus 6. I'm an 8.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm an 8.
This is news to me.
Yeah, I'm an 8, and I guess he's a, what did I say, 5?
Can we pick our own numbers?
Well, I mean, 4 444 is just like the numbers that I see, like my angel numbers. But according to numerology, I'm an 8.
I could have sworn. Well, what's 4 times 4 is
Half
8.
that.
Not 4 times 4. 4 plus 4 is 8.
Yeah. So if you half that, then yeah, I guess it's 4. But
Okay.
yeah, I
Anyway,
don't know. I gotta look into what his means, but I just think it's funny how
he is such a little witchy boy.
he's having all these
So
realizations
cute.
lately.
The
Yeah,
glow on his face in the video that you're inside the house and he's holding up the massive Blair Witch sticks outside your window in the dark.
I died.
So funny.
And Punky's just watching him from the ledge, like, "You're doing a good job, Dad. Keep
Good
going.
job.
Get your witch on, Dad." It's so funny.
It's really cute.
Yeah. But anyway,
This,
yeah.
I'm sure, is a favorite time of the year for many, many listeners. And there's something about that, like visceral transformation, the shift from life to death that we witness every year that stirs something within ourselves. The sights, the sounds, the smells of October, even at the end of September and November, all bring about these subtle changes. And as our bodies begin to change metabolism, preparing us for shorter winter days, our consciousness begins to shift from more actively mental to the more psychically receptive states appropriate to the dark half of the year. As all of these changes are taking place, we are busy preparing for the most magical night of the year, Samhain, or Halloween. It's also known as All Saints Day. This is the day after Samhain or Halloween, and All Souls Day, the day after that, known as the Day of the Dead. The 3-day Mexican festival is also celebrated at this time. Samhain is usually celebrated on October 31st in the Northern Hemisphere and April 30th in the Southern Hemisphere. Samhain marks the transition from the light half of the year to the dark, as well as Justina and I both celebrating our wedding anniversaries.
Oh,
Mine's on November 1st, and this year will be 6 years. And I was really, really gunning for October 31st. I wanted a Halloween wedding, but Erin was like, "Do you really want to share our wedding anniversary with a holiday?" Plus,
yes,
I know.
Erin. It's the most single best holiday in the year. So
Well, I figured the November 1st is still within that veil. It's still thin. Ancestors could still be there. It's still a sacred day. So we did it on a Thursday, November 1st, and we only had 10 people, and it was perfect. And it was a beautiful October day or November day.
I'm going on 7 years this year.
Nice.
That's crazy. It feels like yesterday. I still love watching our little wedding video. Our videographer did an amazing job. I don't know. Did I ever show you that video?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I'm gonna have to show you that.
Mhm.
Wow, yo, I never showed you that.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna show you that
You've
video.
shown me pictures. I've seen your album.
Okay, yeah, I'll forward you the link, and you could just watch it and cry. Okay.
Okay.
It's very haunting, but it's so beautifully done, and you can kind of see, like, remember I was telling you about the whole spiderweb tradition, the little ritual that our officiant put together for us. She like customized the whole entire thing. Beautiful. It was so beautiful, and you can kind of see a little bit of that play out in the video, which is really
I want to see it.
kind of have that as a nice little keepsake. So
Well,
yeah.
happy anniversary.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
I didn't know yours was on like right at the tail end of October.
Yeah.
Veil's still thin, right? The veil is still
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now is the time that the lady, the fruitful mother, has delivered her children, and the fruits of the earth and the harvest has been completed. She steps aside as the horned one steps forward. Now is the time that our focus shifts from the physical side of life to the spiritual. And for this time of transition, the veil is very thin between the two worlds. Samhain, as the end of the year, is the mystery of death and rebirth. It's about transformation, the time when the mysteries are at their deepest, yet paradoxically, the moment we can access them. Perhaps this is why Alice tied the alchemy tree scene in the books to the Sabbath.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't already figured it out from the title of today's episode, today we are deep diving into the mystical alchemy tree. And if you've read the books, most specifically The Rules of Magic, you may remember the passage about the alchemy tree in which Jet and Franny, as I think they're teenagers at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
They visit the alchemy tree in Central Park, New York on Samhain night in order to make wishes. But aside from this passage in the books, which we're going to dive into it in a minute. But first, we're going to explore so much more, like what is the significance of this tree? What is an alchemy tree? As well as what is alchemy?
Mm-hmm.
You may or may not be familiar with the term or the concept throughout history, literature, and pop culture, but we're here to tell you that it isn't just about turning lead into gold. It's about transformation and balance and the pursuit of personal enlightenment. And it's so weird that I talk about balance, reading obvious text just now, how the number 3 makes him feel balanced.
Yeah, very strong number.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So these themes are at the heart of Hoffman's practical magic universe, where magic blends with the everyday, and characters undergo their own alchemical journeys of love, loss, and self-discovery. From the Owens family's healing potions to the symbolic transformations that each character experiences, will be unpacking how alchemy plays a crucial, if often hidden, role in these beloved books, and will even explore the alchemical thread that kind of runs through the movie. And also, we explored the magic of leaves and some trees just a few episodes ago on episode 91, Leaf Magic and Lore. But today we'll be talking more specifically about the oak, more specifically the red oak, as well as their magic and some of the more figurative trees in correlation with the concepts of alchemy.
Ooh,
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is
Just
exciting.
the word seems like so mystical.
It is. And yeah, we're gonna go down all these rabbit holes because there's a lot. Like today, we are only scratching the surface. There are literally so many names, so many pieces of literature tied to these concepts throughout
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And really, like, we can only really talk about some of them today. Like, every character, every name is its own episode. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about this show.
Yeah, so we're gonna give you guys a little taste of that today. So grab your broomsticks, light some candles, and let's dive into the magic of alchemy and practical magic. Before we get into the book mentions, I thought it would just be a good idea to kind of explain in layman's terms what exactly is the philosophy and concept of alchemy, in case you're not familiar with it. Alchemy is an ancient practice that combined art, science, and mystical beliefs in the pursuit of transforming base metals like lead or copper into gold, discovering the, quote, elixir of life, and finding the, what is called the Philosopher's Stone. So what is the Philosopher's Stone, right? We're just already going down the rabbit hole. The Philosopher's Stone is an imaginary substance alchemists believed could transform base metals into gold or silver and create the elixir of life. The Philosopher's Stone was a central symbol in alchemy, the medieval precursor to chemistry. Alchemists believed it was the most pure and perfect substance and that it could be used to create an elixir of life. It would grant immortality. Alchemists also sought cures for diseases, ways to extend life, and universal solvents. These objectives, while rooted in spiritual and philosophical ideas, laid the groundwork for modern scientific practices, particularly in the field of chemistry. The search for the Philosopher's Stone was known as the magnum opus, or, quote, the great work. Many brilliant minds, including Roger Boyle and Sir Isaac Newton, searched for it. And that's just a couple of the names attached to alchemy. Although alchemy involved elements of experimentation, it lacked the rigorous scientific methods to define chemistry today. Chemistry, as a modern scientific discipline, focuses on the composition, structure, and properties of matter through precise observation and experimentation without mystical or philosophical elements. Essentially, alchemy can be seen as the precursor to modern chemistry, influencing early techniques and terminology while lacking the empirical rigor that developed later. The art of alchemy was handed down through the centuries from Egypt and Arabia to Greece and Rome, and finally to Western and Central Europe. The word is derived from the Arabian phrase alchemia, which refers to the preparation of the stone or elixir by the Egyptians. The Arabic root chemia comes from the Coptic chem, K-H-E-M, that alluded to the fertile black soil of the Nile Delta. Esoterically and hieroglyphically, the word refers to the dark mystery of the primordial or first matter, the chem. Simplified, the aims of the alchemists were threefold. There's the 3 again, right? To find the stone of knowledge, the Philosopher's Stone, to discover the medium of eternal youth and health, and lastly, to discover the transmutation of metals, turning lead, copper into gold. To the medieval alchemist's mind, the different elements were but the same original substance in varying degrees of purity. Gold was the purest of all, and silver followed very closely. Alchemists believed that the ancient predecessors had already achieved the transformation of metals into gold, and that studying old texts and conducting further experiments could help recover this lost knowledge. In modern times, alchemy also serves as a metaphor for any process that combines diverse diverse skills, such as science, art, and strategy, to create something transformative and innovative, echoing its original goals of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. So, like, if you've ever seen, like, I don't know, a mixologist or somebody who's into, like, culinary skills, sometimes they refer to it as alchemy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people, I feel like it says artists, scientists, you're doing alchemy without even knowing it. Even just cooking in your kitchen, you're
Uh-huh.
making one thing and turning it into another. And
Yeah.
my favorite saying is, it's magic until it's science. I saw that
Mhm.
on a magnet somewhere. I'm like, that is so fucking true.
I love that.
I
I've
love it
never
too.
heard that, but that is hits the nail on the head. And
Yeah.
like, what about our music? We turned ideas into these beautiful tracks that we're trying to release.
Yeah, we really want to revisit all of our music that we're gonna give to you guys later this year and just show you how far it's come, how much transformation it's gone through. What you were saying, our alchemic process was taking a movie, a story, and turning it into music.
Yeah, turning it into a whole different medium. So many avenues and different mediums of media can be considered alchemy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at the film. So, first, let's take a look at alchemy and its role in the practical magic film. So, in the 1998 film, alchemy is present more symbolically rather than explicitly, much like Alice Hoffman's book series. The film weaves alchemical themes into its narrative through transformation, healing, and the use of magic. So, here are some key alchemy roles that it plays in the film. So, number one, we have transformation and personal growth. Alchemy is a metaphor for transformation and is reflected in the character's journey. Sally, played by Sandra Bullock, and Jillian, played by Nicole Kidman, undergo significant personal growth throughout the story. Sally transforms from someone who represses her magical heritage to fully embracing her power in the film. Jillian moves from a reckless and troubled woman into one who finds strength and responsibility. These transformations parallel the alchemical process of turning base elements, negative experiences, weaknesses into gold, personal empowerment, and wisdom. Secondly, love as an alchemical process. The film portrays love, both romantic and familial, as a force of transformation akin to alchemy. Sally's love for her children and her family acts as a catalyst for change, healing, and protection. Similarly, the strong bond between the Owens women, the aunts to the nieces, and the sisters to sisters, helps them transcend curses and challenges. Love, in the sense, becomes a powerful elixir capable of both destruction and renewal, echoing alchemical themes of transformation through union and balance. Thirdly, healing and herbalism. The film emphasizes the Owens women's use of herbal magic and potions, which can be seen as a kind of practical alchemy. For instance, Sally makes lotions and remedies in her shops, blending natural ingredients with a bit of magic to create something greater. This aspect reflects the idea of transforming everyday material into something with potent healing or magical properties, a hallmark of alchemical practices. Number 4, confronting and purging darkness. The concept of purging negative or harmful forces to achieve a more balanced state is another theme in this film. The Owens women must confront and ultimately banish the spirit of Jimmy. This exorcism can be linked to an alchemical process of purification, removing the quote lead, which is darkness, harmful energy, to create a more harmonious and quote golden existence. And lastly, number 5, the balance of opposites. Alchemy often involves the balance of opposing forces such as light and dark or masculine and feminine. In practical magic, the balance between fate and free will, love and fear, life and death is explored. The Owens women must learn to embrace both their magic and their vulnerability to break the family curse, reflecting the alchemical idea of reconciliation of opposites. While the film does not delve into literal alchemy or the classical practices, its themes of transformation, healing, and the interplay of light and dark reflect key alchemical principles in a symbolic way.
If I can personally think of some instances in either the film or the book in which alchemy may play a role, perhaps the aunts have access to this elixir of life. Think about their black soap that keeps them young. It's pretty much their own personal fountain of youth serum, right? And then also their resurrection spell. Granted, it brings the dead back as something dark and unnatural, but they seem to have access to immortality or the ability to bring the dead back through means of necromancy, whether it's like for the good or for bad, right?
You're
Whether
right.
it's something dark, unnatural, or, you know, something that they once knew and loved. So alchemy and necromancy are both practices that involve the supernatural. However, they do have different goals and methods. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah,
alchemy is not necromancy and vice versa, but they do have similar goals. So alchemy is a speculative practice that aims to transform base metals like lead or copper into gold or silver, which we said before. And alchemists also sought to discover a cure for disease and a way to extend life. And alchemy works through love and seeking to facilitate the natural flow of life. Necromancy is also kind of a way to extend life, but for different reasons. So, necromancy is a magical practice that involves communicating with the dead to foretell the future or discover hidden knowledge. It's also known as black magic, and sometimes it is used to refer to witchcraft as a whole. Necromancy's dark reputation comes from its undeath aspect, which involves reanimating the dead or creating undead monsters. So it's like kind of extending life in a darker way, not extending life that is already living.
Okay. Yeah, my question before you got to that very last sentence was, okay, so you know how we talked about my aunt who is deceased, who comes to me and gives me messages to foretell the future. Is that necromancy?
Yes, bitch. Christina's face just was like, what?
What?
You are a necromancer,
I'm
my
a
love.
necromancer.
Apparently, I guess like all people who practice the dark arts are necromancers. I mean, we using the tarot, or if anybody does have connections or can commune with the dead and hear spirits and clairaudience, I guess that's some form of necromancy, right? You are using yourself as a channel to gain messages from the dead to, in turn, get messages about the future.
That is so dope.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a book right now. I think it's called The History of Seances by Lisa Morton. But next spooky season,
yes,
I think we should do a whole episode on necromancy alone, because we can unpack that entire resurrection scene.
Oh my God, I'm so there. I'm for it.
Yeah, and a name that popped up when I was reading it the other night, Gustave Doré.
Shut up!
Oh my God. He did some artwork surrounding themes of necromancy. So
that's so cool. Look at you.
Yeah. And wasn't one of those pieces, Sally was flipping through the grimoire to find the resurrection spell, so it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as the books in Alice Hoffman's Practical Magic series, those 4 books, alchemy plays a more subtle symbolic role and thematic role rather than being the central practice of the characters, like in its traditional occult or magical traditions. So here's how it's reflected throughout the series. So one way is transformation and healing. The Practical Magic series explores themes of emotional and spiritual transformation, which mirrors the process of alchemy. Characters undergo deep personal changes, whether it's healing from loss, overcoming trauma, or finding their true selves. This inner journey mirrors the alchemical process of turning base substances like lead into something more precious like gold, symbolizing self-refinement and growth. Secondly, in the books, the alchemy of relationships is shown. Hoffman's books focuses heavily on family dynamics, love, and the bonds between generations of women in the Owens family. Alchemy is often viewed as a metaphor for the magical and sometimes challenging transformations that occur in relationships. The conflicts, heartbreaks, and reconciliations in the story are alchemical processes of sorts, where characters' emotions, their base metals, are refined into deeper connections and understanding.
I was thinking the main one that kind of stands out to me there, as far as the alchemy of relationships, is remember the relationship of Jet with the Reverend?
Yeah, that one's huge.
That's a huge alchemical process.
Wow.
That relationship, they went from like really like this bitterful resentment relationship to something really loving and like odd how they were able to transmute their quote base metals there, right?
Exactly. And it seemed to like leach kind of into the rest of the family, even though Franny kind of had like more of a hesitation than anybody else. Antonia would go and like see him in the hospital, you know? Yeah. She's like, I don't know how I got this job, but I'm going to make you cake. He's like, this cake is really bad.
Anyway, yeah, just an observation, and I'm sure there's so many more examples in the book, but that was the one I just literally thought when you read that. Yeah,
and I mean, from Gary's perspective of being very pragmatic and very rational to then believing in the supernatural.
Right. Yes. Also, the alchemy process for sure.
So let's talk about herbalism and the healing arts. While not classical alchemy, that Owens family's deep connection with herbalism, potions, and remedies can be seen as a type of practical alchemy. They work with natural natural elements, blending herbs and magic to heal and affect change. In this way, their craft carries an alchemical essence, transforming natural ingredients into something powerful and life-altering. And lastly, let's talk about the balance of opposites. Alchemy often involves balancing of opposites, male and female, sun and moon, light and dark. Hoffman's series emphasizes the importance of accepting both the dark and the light aspects of the Owens women and the magical lineage, and the struggle between fate and free will. Characters often wrestle with dualities, reflecting the alchemical principles of reconciling opposites to achieve balance, and enlightenment. Though Hoffman doesn't delve deeply into literal alchemical practices, these symbolic themes of transformation, healing, and balance resonate throughout the whole series, giving alchemy a mystical and underlying presence in the stories. So now let's actually dive into the books and explore alchemy.
So this starts with magic lessons, and this is on page 41. So this says, although Rebecca could neither read nor write, when it came to matters of love, she was an expert. Her grimoire was filled with runic marks, the ancient alphabet of alchemy. She used these symbols to denote which herbs to use and which to avoid, which spells were best to recite in the waning or waxing of the moon to bring forth the power of the earth and sky, incantations which were dangerous in a novice's hands. I think that was the only one that mentioned alchemy in the entirety of that book.
Okay.
So I just wanted to venture down this rabbit hole a little bit and talk about the alphabet of alchemy. What is the alphabet of alchemy? So in the early days of alchemy, the astronomical sign of the planets were also used as alchemical symbols. Then in the centuries of medieval persecution and suppression, every alchemist invented his or her own secret symbols. Charlatans, quacks, and cheats took over, and alchemy became, along with sorcery and witchcraft, infamous for fraud and extortion. In the 18th century, scientists tried to pry loose the real achievements in chemistry, pharmacology, and medicine from this confusing cornucopia of science and magic. So there's a little chart here that explores all the different alchemical elements. And alchemical symbols were used to denote chemical elements and compounds, as well as alchemical apparatus and processes, until the 18th century. Although notation was partly standardized, style and symbol varied between alchemists. Ludi Tanger published an inventory of 3,695 symbols and variants, and that was not exhaustive, omitting, for example, many of the symbols used by Isaac Newton. This page, therefore, lists only the most common symbols. So I think I took this from the wiki page. There's a whole page, and that's like not even scratching the surface of alchemical symbols.
Right. But some of them are kind of more well known, at least the ones pictures here. It's a lot of your periodic table symbols: gold, iron, sulfur, tin, lead, arsenic. But they also have mercury and anatomy, right? So I'm sure there's hundreds more.
There's like zinc, magnesium, all the elements, but then also the actual, like, not the chemical elements, but more so like your natural elements: earth, air, fire, water. Think about the triangles that we just talked about on a recent episode, right? There's like a triangle pointing up, a triangle pointing down, then a triangle pointing up with a line through it, and then a triangle pointing down with a line through it. Like, those are all alchemical symbols. So let's start with the three primes. So according to Paracelsus, between 1493 and 1541, the three primes, or tria prima, of which material substances are immediately composed, are: number one, sulfur or sol, the principle of combustibility. And then we have the mercury or spirit, the principle of fusibility and volatility. And then we have salt or body, the principle of non-combustibility and non-volatility. And there's different symbols for each one. I don't know, would it make sense to, I guess we could just put this over in our show notes if anybody wants to look at these symbols and, see for themselves what these look like. But then next we're going to talk about the four basic elements, which I just mentioned before. Western alchemy makes use of these four classical elements, which are the air, earth, fire, water. So specifically, the air is the triangle facing upward with the line, earth is facing downward with the line, and then fire is facing upward and water is facing downward. Next is the seven planetary metals. The seven metals, known since classical times in Europe, were associated with the seven classical planets. This figured heavily in alchemical symbolism. The exact correlation varied over time, and in early centuries, bronze or electrum were sometimes found instead of mercury or copper for Mars instead of iron. However, gold, silver, and lead had always been associated with the sun, moon, and Saturn. The associations below are attested from the 7th century and had stabilized by the 15th. They started breaking down with the discovery of antimony, maybe it's an element, antimony, bismuth, and zinc in the 16th century. Alchemists would typically call the metals by their planetary names, for example, Saturn for lead, Mars for iron. Compounds of tin, iron, and silver continue to be called jovial, martial, and lunar, or of, quote, Jupiter, of Mars, and of the moon.
How confusing.
Yeah, I know. This is, oh my God. So through the 17th century, the tradition remains today with the name of the element mercury, where chemists decided the planetary name was preferable to common names like quicksilver, and in few archaic terms such as lunar caustic, also known as silver nitrate, and Saturnism, which is known as lead poisoning. So there are some elements here, what symbols that they correspond with as far as the planets go. So the first one is lead, right? That base metal that you're going to turn into the precious metal. So lead corresponds with the planet of Saturn, which is like a little H with
with like a slash through the
top.
The vertical put, vertical.
Yeah. The next one is tin, which corresponds with Jupiter, which kind of looks like a number 4 with like a curve on the backside of the 4. Next we have iron, which corresponds with Mars, which is the male symbol, the circle with the arrow on top. Then we have gold, which corresponds with the sun, which is a circle with a little dot in the middle. And then there's a couple other little symbols here. I've never seen the one in the middle before. It looks like a comet hitting the earth or something. Right?
That one's not showing up on my end. I'll take your word for it.
Okay, and then there's another one next to that, which looks like the little symbol on your phone screen that says the brightness, the little sun.
Yeah, it looks like the kind of sun you draw when you're a kid.
Yeah, and then we have copper, which corresponds with Venus, which is the female symbol, the circle with the little cross on the bottom. Then we have quicksilver, which corresponds with Mercury, which it looks like a little devil with horns, right?
Yeah.
Little stick figure devil. And then lastly, we have silver, which corresponds with the moon, which that makes sense, right? Because like the moon is more, it's like the opposite of the sun. It's because we think gold when we think of the sun. So the moon is on the opposite side of the spectrum there. And the symbols are just the moon, like the crescent. Yeah.
So as a Sagittarius, you're ruled by Jupiter, correct? Right. So yours would be tin.
Yep.
And Mercury, I would be quicksilver. That's not really like tin you can kind of utilize like around your house. What the hell could you use quicksilver for?
What is quicksilver?
I don't know. I think of like mercury in like a thermometer.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. What is quicksilver? Yeah, it's liquid metal mercury.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh, kind of like the bad guy from Terminator 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you could use it to tell your temperature if you're sick.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
you go around your house just like taking the temperature of all your house plants and stuff.
I just put my hand up to everybody's forehead. Oh, you're sick.
And then they go. I just have that clip of the Exorcisms episode.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
When you were like the preacher.
Dude, we gotta hang out more.
I know. I wish you would closer.
All right, so let's dive into Rules of Magic. This is the second book. But before we dive in, we just want to preface this by saying that this book, the other books are as well, but this one is divided into 6 parts. I think Practical Magic maybe has 3 parts. Yeah. But in Rules of Magic, part 1 is titled Intuition. Part 2 is titled Alchemy. Part 3, Conjure. Part 4, Elemental. Part 5, Gravity. And Part 6 is called Remedy. So the entire second part of this book is the section that's titled Alchemy. So we wanted to analyze the whole section of this book a little bit. So in Rules of Magic, Part 2, titled Alchemy, is a pivotal section that focuses on the transformation experiences of the Owen siblings, Franny, Jet, and Vincent, as they come into their own power and face emotional and spiritual challenges. Here is a little summary of the section and a bit of speculation as to why it might be titled Alchemy. So, at this point in the novel, the Owen siblings are no longer children and they're beginning to confront the weight of their magical inheritance. This section covers their early adulthood, where they experience the complexities of love, loss, and the darker sides of their power. So firstly, let's talk about Franny. Franny is grappling with her sense of duty and her desires for freedom. Her intellect and practical nature make her reluctant to fully embrace her powers, but she also feels the burden of the responsibility of her family. She's the eldest. Next, we have Jet. Jet has fallen deeply in love with Levi Willard, a boy whose family is deeply religious and opposes magic. This love story is intense, but doomed. As the Owens family curse, that any man who loves an Owens woman is doomed to die. So this is looming over their relationship. And I think ancestrally, they have some kind of connection in the past also, the Willards and the Owens.
Yeah. Yeah. John Hathorne was their ancestor.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So Maria and John Hathorne, the Hathorne's on the Willards, Maria on the Owen side. So there's that rift that transcends space and time between the two families. So yeah, that was a lot of the reason why Reverend Willard was so against like Jet being with his son.
Yeah, that borderline incest again.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And lastly, our Vincent, he is a rebellious, free-spirited. He's the little brother who's exploring his identity, including his sexual orientation. And he has been delving into those darker arts. He is the most curious about the limits of his power and begins to kind of flirt with danger, leading to tragic consequences. As the siblings experience heartbreak, betrayal, and the limitations of their power, they begin to change on a fundamental level, emotionally and spiritually. The idea of transformation, both through suffering and self-discovery, is central to this entire section. In alchemy, the number 2 holds a deeply symbolic significance, often representing duality and the interplay of opposing forces. Real quick, it is interesting. Speaking on numerology, like 2, 2, 2. Practical magic, we have the 2 aunts, we have the 2 sisters, we have the 2 daughters. And then all of a sudden, rules of magic, we got that 3rd little boy who's like the only male descendant in the Owens line, as we know. It's just cool. It's just neat to see.
Yeah, so this next section about the 2, I kind of wanted to explore why alchemy would have been the second part of the book. Like, why did Alice choose to name that second part of the book alchemy?
Okay.
Yeah, so let's just explore why she would have named that second part of the book alchemy. So in alchemy, the number 2 holds deep symbolic significance, often representing duality and the interplay of opposing forces. Alchemy is rooted in the idea of balance and transformation, and the number 2 encapsulates this concept by highlighting the necessity of unity between opposites to achieve change. So here are the key aspects of the number 2 in alchemical symbolism. So number 1, duality and opposites. The number 2 represents the existence of 2 opposing forces that are necessary for a transformation. These opposites can be, for example, the sun and the moon, representing the masculine and feminine principles. Then we have light and dark, we have active and passive, and also heaven and earth, if we want to talk more spiritually. So alchemists believe that transformation and enlightenment could only be achieved through the reconciliation of opposites, a concept known as the conjunctio, or sacred union. The second reason why maybe this section of the book was called alchemy, male and female principles. So the number 2 often represents the masculine and feminine energies in alchemical practices. These energies are symbolized by the sun, which is male, and the moon, female, or sulfur, masculine, and mercury, feminine, in alchemical materials. Their combination is crucial for the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, which represents the ultimate goal of alchemical transformation. Next, we have the polarities in nature. So alchemy draws on the principles of polarities that exist in nature, and the number 2 signifies the necessity of combining 2 opposing yet complementary forces in the natural world to produce harmony and transformation. For example, fire and water must work together to transform matter, and spirit and body must be united to achieve spiritual enlightenment. Number 4, the union of opposites, the hieros gamos. The alchemical concept of the hieros gamos, which means sacred marriage, involves the merging of 2 distinct principles to create a new, elevated form. This union is a key step in the alchemical process and leads to the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, which represents spiritual transformation and the perfection of both matter and spirit. And then lastly, in the alchemical process, we have the stage of separation and reconciliation. So in the alchemical process, there's often a stage where substances are separated into 2 distinct parts, which then must be reunited in a more purified form. This separation and reunion is a vital part of achieving the final transformation, reflecting the importance of duality, which is the number 2 in the overall process. And in summary, the number 2 in alchemy signifies the essential role of duality, opposites, and the balance between them in the transformative process. Without the interplay between these opposing forces, alchemical transformation, whether it's turning base metals into gold or achieving spiritual enlightenment, it simply cannot occur. This is why I think this section is titled alchemy is very fitting for this part of the book because it symbolizes the inner transformation that the characters undergo. In classical alchemy, the process of turning base metals into gold is a metaphor for personal and spiritual refinement. And here's how the concept of alchemy kind of applies to this section. So, number one, transformation through love and loss. The siblings' relationship, especially Jet's doomed romance and Vincent's explorations of forbidden love, and not just forbidden love, but the dark arts, right? It becomes this catalyst for personal change. The pain that they endure transforms them, much like how alchemists would purify metals by fire. Secondly, emotional and spiritual growth. Each character starts to confront deeper truths about themselves and their own powers. Franny must learn to balance the responsibility with desire. Jet confronts the consequences of forbidden love, and Vincent faces the dangers of unchecked magic. These personal transformations are reflective of the alchemical process of refinement and purification. Next, we have the struggle between darkness and light. Alchemy often involves the reconciliation of opposites, light and dark, life and death. The Owen siblings experience both the joy of love and the pain of loss, and they struggle to find balance between their magical powers and the ordinary world, much like Sally in the movie, right? She experiences the death of her husband, but then she also has to turn it all around and summon those magical parts of herself to become the person she's ultimately meant to become. So maybe she's not really meant to love someone in that moment. Maybe it's just meant to teach her that lesson so then she can alchemize those qualities about herself to become who she's really meant to be. Right?
Yeah, if she's not even able to get out of bed to take care of her kids, never mind herself, she's in no place, to have a love interest just yet. Anytime you go through therapy or you get out of a bad relationship, usually they say don't go into a relationship for like a year. Like you need to heal yourself a little more.
Right. Yeah. And that's another example of the aunts. They're messing with free will and somebody's fate, talking about Michael. So they're trying to manipulate alchemy, but maybe it just doesn't work that way.
Ladies,
you're not supposed to work. You're not supposed to mess with the fate. So then lastly, magic as a transformative force, going back to the rules of magic. So the magic that the Owens siblings inherit can be seen as a tool of alchemy, capable of both destruction and healing. Throughout this section, they learn the consequences of using their powers, which leads to deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. So in essence, alchemy in Rules of Magic refers to the internal and external transformations that the characters experience as they come to terms with their magical legacy and the force that shapes their lives. The title highlights the theme of personal refinement as they are figuratively, quote, turned into gold through their struggles and revelations. Let's get into the passages from the book. And this one that we're about to read was actually featured in the autumn issue number 40 of Fairy magazine back in 2017. And it was paired with a beautiful illustration of a red oak tree and two girls under it, one kind of like welcoming in a blackbird, like a crow or a raven, right? Which represents Franny and her bird. Was that Franny or Jet, the bird familiar?
Jet has the black hair, right? And Franny's got the red hair. So I think this is Franny standing under the tree.
Yeah, so she was welcoming in her familiar because they made these wishes at this tree.
Can I go back to something that you said about them be turned into gold? And it makes me think like throughout our journey as humans, we look back, God, I was doing this yesterday, and just like cringing at some of the things that you've done in your past. And you're like, you can't do anything about that. Look how far you've come. And figuratively, like being turned into gold, like you think, by this time, mid-age, you tend not to give a fuck, and you know kind of what you like, what you don't like, but still, you are still transforming every single day. And I feel like gold is a very soft metal, if I recall correctly, and can be melted down and turned into different things. So even if you do find yourself being turned into gold or feel like you've reached your peak, the epitome of who you are, you're always going to be shifting and melting back down and turned into something else over time.
I love that concept. And we just recently talked about that concept, like at what? It's like every 7 to 10 years, you become a whole nother person. Like your cells literally change.
Yeah.
And, if you're constantly striving to be a better person and being the ultimate version of yourself, like that in and of itself, definitely, that's alchemy, right?
Yeah, and those cringy things, I have to remind myself of that. And I'm like, okay, you were a different person altogether. That person don't even exist anymore, so don't worry about it.
Baby, you were lead before, but now you gold.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get into this passage, which was featured in that autumn issue of Fairy Magazine. And yeah, that beautiful illustration by Charles Vess. It's so beautiful, right? And they're standing under this red oak tree with very twisty and turny limbs, and
I want to climb it.
I know, right? You just want to take a nap under there.
Yeah.
This entire passage is from the alchemy section of Rules of Magic. So this says, the most glorious hour in Manhattan was when twilight fell in sheets across the great lawn. Bands of blue turned darker by the moment as the last of the pale light filtered through the boughs of cherry trees and black locusts. In October, the meadows turned gold, the vines were twists of yellow and red, but the park was more and more crime-ridden. The Owen siblings had ridden their bikes on the paths without adult supervision when they were 5 and 6 and 7. Now children were forbidden to go past the gates after nightfall. There were muggings and assaults. Desperate men who had nowhere else to go slept on the green benches and under the yews. Yet to Franny, Central Park continued to be a great and wondrous universe, a science lab that was right down the street from their house. There were secret places near Azalea Pond where so many caterpillars wound cocoons in the spring that entire locust groves came alive in a single night with clouds of newly hatched morning cloak butterflies. In autumn, huge flocks of migrating birds passed over, alighting in the trees to rest overnight as they traveled to Mexico or South America. Most of all, Franny loved the muddy ramble, the wildest, most remote section of the park. In this overgrown jumble of woods and bogs, there were white-tailed mice and owls. Birds stirred in the thickets, all of them drawn to her as she walked by. On a single day, waves of 30 different sorts of warblers might drift above the park. Loons, cormorants, herons, blue jays, kestrels, vultures, swans, mallards, ducks, 6 varieties of woodpeckers, nighthawks, chimney swifts, ruby-throated hummingbirds, and hundreds more were either migrating flyovers or year-round residents. Once Franny had come upon a blue heron, nearly as tall as she. It walked right over to her, unafraid, while her own heart was pounding. She stayed still, trying her best to barely breathe as it came to rest its head against her cheek. She cried when it had flown away, like a beautiful blue kite. She who prided herself on her tough exterior could always be undone by the beauty of flight. Near the ramble was the Alchemy Tree, an ancient oak hidden in a glen few park-goers ever glimpsed, a gigantic twisted specimen whose roots grew up from the ground in knotty bumps. The tree was said to be 500 years old. There, long before teams of workers turned what had been an empty marshland into the groomed playground imagined by Frederick Law Olmsted in 1858, giving the city a form of nature more natural than the very thing it imitated. It was here, one chilly night, that the sisters dared to unearth the abilities they had inherited. It was Samhain, the last night in October, All Hallows Eve, the night when one season ended and another began. Their parents were out at a costume party, having dressed as Sigmund Freud and Marilyn Monroe. It was a night of festivity and troops of children were scattered along the city streets. 2 out of 3 little girls were witches with tilted black hats and rustling capes. Halloween in New York City always smelled like candy corn and bonfires. Jet and Franny cut across the park to meet Vincent after his guitar lesson. As they were early, there was time to sit on the damp grass. The summer had started them thinking, if they were not like everyone else, who, then, were they? Lately, they'd been itching to know what they were capable of. They had never tried to combine whatever talents they might have. Just this once, Jet said. Let's see what happens. We can try something simple. A wish. 1 each. Let's see if we can make it be. Franny gave her sister a discouraging look. The last time she had said, just this once, 2 boys had been struck by lightning. Franny was definitely picking up something. Jet had an ulterior motive. There was something she desperately wanted. If there was ever a time to make a wish, it was now. We can find out what Mother has been hiding from us, Jet suggested. See what we're really able to do. If there was a way to get Franny involved, it was suggesting an attempt to prove their mother wrong. Is that Justina?
Yeah, really.
D?
You're not gonna dance, gonna make your confirmation.
Make your confirmation. They joined hands, and right away, the air around them grew heavy and dense. Franny repeated a phrase she had overheard Aunt Isabel recite when one of her clients had asked for a wish to be fulfilled. Did I ever say what that word was? Did they
No,
ever say?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay, so we ask for this and nothing more. We ask once and we'll ask no more. So that is what they chanted, I guess, at this alchemy tree. So then, a soft fog rose from the ground, and the birds in the thicket stopped singing. This was it. Something was beginning. They looked at each other and decided they would try. One wish apiece, Franny whispered, and nothing major. No world peace or the end of poverty. We wouldn't want to push it over the limit and have some sort of rebound that does the opposite of the wish. Jet nodded. She made her wish right away, eyes closed, breathing slowed. She was in a trance of desire and magic. Her face was flushed and hot. As for Franny, she wanted what she most often experienced in her dreams, to be among the birds. She preferred them to most human beings, their grace, their distance from the earth, their great beauty. Perhaps that was why they always came to her. In some way, she spoke their language. After a few minutes, when it seemed nothing would happen, and the air was still so heavy Franny's eyes had begun to close, Jet tugged on her sister's arm. Look up! There on a low branch of the tree sat a huge crow. Was that your wish? Jet whispered, surprised. More or less, Franny whispered back. Of all the things in a world, a bird? I suppose so, more or less, Franny says. It is definitely studying you, Jet says to her. Franny stood up, took a deep breath, then lifted her arm in the air. As she did, a cold wind gusted. The crow swooped off its branch and came to her just as the sparrow had in their Aunt Isabel's house, as the heron had walked to her, as birds in the park were drawn to her from their nests in the thickets. This time, however, Franny was caught off guard by the sheer weight of the bird and by the way it looked at her. As if they knew each other, she could swear she could hear a voice echo from beneath its beating breast. I will never leave unless you send me away, which is what I think she's hearing it say to her. And then she fainted right then and there in the grass. So, yeah.
I like how she's like, was that what you wished for? And Franny's like, more or less, I guess. Like,
a bird?
that's fine.
Jet's over here, like, wishing for the love of her life, right?
I know.
Like, yeah.
Franny just wants a bird so she can fly far, far away from here.
Far, far away.
Far,
Yeah.
far
So
away.
they said something about a bog, right?
In this passage, I don't know. But that's weird that you say that because I keep seeing like bog witch shit pop up in my FYP.
Really?
I
Okay.
don't know. And we talked about it in the cauldrons one. Cauldrons are always found in bogs.
Right, yeah. So yeah, it says that the tree where the alchemy tree stood, it was said to be previously an empty marshland that Frederick Law Olmsted turned into this beautiful groomed playground. So it used to be this like marshy bog, I guess, which is interesting because we're going to talk about bogs a little later on in reference to, remember the fens in the Book of Magic?
Cool.
So they kind of have a little bit of a correlation.
Magic. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Think of the alchemy tree and like how trees have been known throughout like literature and history to be like this like transport between worlds, right?
Oh, for sure.
How we talked about that in our leaf magic episode. But then also the fens is also kind of like an in-between kind of realm, you know?
Yes,
So they
exactly.
kind of have a parallel thing going on there.
Right. I don't know where it was read. You were talking about early on, just now, the Egyptians and like the mud of the Nile specifically. And that made me think of like the lilies, the lily pad, the lotus. Lotus.
Yeah, lotus, yeah.
And how it grows from the dirt and the depths and the dark and transforms into something beautiful. So like that concept along with the fens and the bogs as being like this place of transition.
Yeah, and transmuting of those base elements. Like, and what it goes back to what you were saying before, like how you change as a person. Goldie Hawn, the actress Goldie Hawn, has a book called The Lotus Grows Through the Mud. And it's about her whole entire life story. Like, you know, you're young and you go through all these experiences and it makes you into the person that you're gonna be. So that's an excellent example. The lotus growing through the mud, kind of bringing you through life, and you're turning into that person, that highest form, your highest sense of self, right?
Love
so
it.
That's a perfect analogy. I love
Love it.
Exactly. Lotus.
I'm on a roll today.
No, this topic is just giving. It's giving. All right.
Let's talk about the sisters.
Yeah.
In relation to this scene. So we'll start with Jet. So unlike her sister, who wishes to avoid love due to the family curse, you know, Franny has had Halen as her friend-zoned man for how long?
Yeah.
So that is not her priority. Unlike Jet. Jet wishes, you know, to have that deep romantic relationship, that she has this deep longing for a romantic connection despite the risk posed by the Owens family history. And Jet is more idealistic and romantic, and her wish reveals her desire to experience that intensity and the beauty of love, even if it, you know, it comes with the danger of heartbreak, which inevitably it does. Even without a family curse. I think there's a song called Once We Were Vampires or something like that. And the line is like, we might have a little time together, but ultimately, we might have 40 years together, but one of us is going to have to spend some time alone. One of us is going to die. And it always makes me cry. I'm like, oh my God. Jet's wish at the Alchemy Tree highlights the contrasting personalities between her and her sister. Franny seeks to protect herself from emotional pain, while Jet embraces the potential for love despite the threat of the curse. And this moment illustrates Jet's belief in the power of love, even knowing the cost it might bring. It also sets the stage for the heartache she will face, as her love for Levi Willard becomes a pivotal part of her personal journey and the tragic consequence of the curse. And in contrast, Franny, in the rules of magic, Franny makes a significant wish at the Alchemy Tree, which is a mystical and symbolic place that has a deep meaning for the Owens family lore. Franny wishes for the ability to never fall in love. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. This wish stems from her fear of the Owens family curse, which dictates that any man who loves an Owens woman will die tragically. Franny, being practical and proactive, believes that by avoiding love altogether, she can protect herself and others from heartbreak caused by the curse. Her wish is a way to shield herself from vulnerability and the inevitable loss that love brings, especially given the weight of the family's tragic history. This moment at the Alchemy Tree reflects Franny's desire for control over her emotions and fate, while also highlighting her internal struggle between embracing her true nature and the fear of the curse. The tree itself, a place where wishes are made, ties into the alchemical themes of transformation and the consequences of desire, symbolizing the complex process of emotional change that Franny will go through as this story unfolds. Listening to you read the excerpt from the story, it's so simple. Let's go to the tree, just make a wish. I want to do spell work with you so bad in person.
Dude, we would get kicked out of so many parks. Like, oh, these girls are on their witch shit again.
I'm just kind of scared of like what we have been able to create and do and manifest, not even in the same state. Like, can you imagine being in the same room? All that magic.
We managed to alchemize the shit out of this shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so like beside myself sometimes. I'm like, how did we get here?
Mm-hmm.
How did we get here? I still don't know.
We're still turning into gold, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. Still going through those alchemical processes every day, just working on stuff. It's amazing. So, we're going to talk about some other rules of magic mentions about alchemy, the alchemy tree, and Samhain. So this next one is on between pages 164 to 165. Sunlight fell through the overhanging branches, and the shadow on the ground formed lacy patterns. Before she knew it, she was at the alchemy tree, which was pulsating with green blood within its bark, so alive it might as well have been human. She stood with her arms out and ran her hands over the tree. Everything glowed and shimmered, undulating before her eyes. She could actually taste the air. It was vanilla and moss. There were black weeds beneath her feet, and when she wished them to bloom, they did so, in shades of lilac and persimmon. She lay down in the brambles, sinking into them, yet she didn't feel the stickers. They drew blood, but the thorns didn't hurt, and each bruise of blood resembled a rose. If she were dead, would she be reunited with Levi? Was he waiting for her now? There were yellow warblers flickering by as they migrated, as if specks of light had broken off from the sun. The brightness of the little birds in the fading shadows was blinding. Jet closed her eyes. Still, she couldn't escape the light. Inside her eyelids, there were fireflies. How had they gotten there? Everything was too bright, dazzling.
I guess that's when she was on LSD.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, and I guess she was that when her parents were trying to keep her from Levi, or was that after Levi had already passed? I think
he's already gone.
Okay. All right, so this next one is page 177. The last time they met, she'd show him the alchemy tree. They brought along a 6-pack of beer, and after the second bottle, Raphael admitted that he had guessed her plan when she said she didn't need help getting to her room, yet tipped him $5 anyway. In return, he had saved her life. He was her secret, one she kept close. It wasn't love, but for her, it was something more. He was someone she trusted.
I feel so bad for him.
For him? Yeah.
He doesn't, he gives her everything, his time, his love, his attention, his,
Yeah.
her life. And she's like,
Yeah.
it wasn't love. It was fine.
Yeah, I think
And
she's
I'm
just
still going to be buried next to Levi.
yeah, I think she's just trying to fill a void, right? She
Ugh.
just
And
I don't
she's
know.
still like 17 at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's so like dedicated or like what's the word? Not dedicated.
Emo.
Yeah, she's just like so what's the word?
Loyal?
Loyal. Yeah, she's so loyal to a dead guy who
Yeah.
she wasn't even like with for that
Yeah, they
long.
only spent like how many days together? What would Levi have to say about her
Right.
actions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you see yourself tied to anybody you met at 17 years old?
No, and the one that I was actually did die. And like,
Right.
honey, you gotta go move on. But
Right. Yeah.
however, in this fictional world, she saw this happen, which, oh
Yeah.
my God, traumatic,
Oh my God, 100%. And maybe that's a lot of the reason why she's still so attached because
The
maybe
survivor's
she's
guilt.
attached to her trauma,
Hmm.
which I think she's probably maybe attached to her trauma more than she's attached to the actual
Yeah.
person, you know?
Hmm.
I guess
Yeah.
this is how trauma works.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's
Yeah,
just got you
she's
in its grasp.
mourning him more than her parents.
Yeah, yeah, odd,
Odd.
right? So the next passage is on page 261. This says, Today everything smelled earthy, the rich scent of mulch and decaying leaves and roots. It was an ending and a beginning, for the month itself was like a gate. October began as a golden hour and ended with Samhain, the day when the worlds of the living and the dead opened to each other. There was no choice but to walk through the gates of time. Franny had already packed up her suitcase and carried the grimoire with her. The book and all it contained was now theirs. Maybe she wasn't mourning their parents as much because now she can finally be herself. Like, think of all the years that her mom was trying to restrict her from,
Mhm,
being
mhm.
magical.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very strange family dynamic of like, yes, they're a family. I'm sure that the parents loved the kids in their own way. I don't know about the dad. He seemed kind of like a fuck, but like the mom, like Sally, thought she was doing the right thing by keeping them away from this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know. I think her mourning, Levi more so than her parents, is just so odd. Regardless, like it's still your parent.
Right. I do think it's an interesting dynamic. Like you said, the dad was a fuck. Dr. Burke Owens,
Yeah.
what is that what his name was? He took Susanna's last name. Like, yeah, all the men took the Owens woman's last name,
Right.
right? But I think it's interesting. He was a psychologist,
Hmm.
right? Like a therapist or something. And I think it's interesting, like, aren't like all children's whose parent is like a therapist or a psychologist, like they're the most like the ones that need the most help
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like they end up not even having those important discussions. Like their children are the most isolated ones, I feel like.
Yeah. Or they're always second guessing that feeling like, hey, I'm having that feeling, but my parent, who this is their job, is telling me, okay, but it could be this, it could be this. Like, I can't even feel this
Yeah.
anger. I'm always trying to fix the
It's
thing.
always being diagnosed rather than maybe dealt with
Yes,
or,
yes.
get into the
Mhm.
root of the issue. And
True.
yeah, I feel like Susanna was always trying to brush their true selves under the rug. She's like, no Ouija boards,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
Going whatever.
No red shoes. Yeah.
Exactly, none of that. So I feel like their powers have been stifled their entire lives, and maybe once they were out of the picture, maybe the Owens siblings were finally like, okay, well now we can be who we are.
And they also had that like surrogate parent from Isabel.
That's true, right? Yeah, and she was encouraging of their
Hmm.
be who you are, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we are at page 298, and this is talking about Vincent. This says, for the date of the concert, he'd chosen Samhain, All Hallows Eve, the night of death and transformation. The sky was black and filled with stars, and the leaves on the chestnut trees curled up as a sudden flash and cold descended upon the city. He stood on an overpass near the Louvre, facing the crowd. The lamps in the park blinked as though they were fireflies. This was the moment he had seen in the three-sided mirror when he was 14. When a hush fell, he sang the songs he had written in New York, beginning and ending with I Walk at Night. He had his fans, but most in the crowd had never heard of him. The last song was a river in which he would have happily drowned. And then lastly, between pages 321 and 322, this says, she, talking about Jet, had the sight once more. It was Samhain, the last day in October, when doors between worlds are open and impossible things are accomplished. She began to work from Isabel's grimoire. starting with the easy recipes: chamomile for blessing, hyssop and holly to dispel negative energy, and after a few weeks she progressed to one of the most complex spells, the Dove's Heart love charm. She went to the butcher's for the heart, and afterward there were all sorts of chatter on Main Street. People peered out their windows as she walked home with a bloody paper bag. She was to prick the heart she had carefully prepared for a client who was to say, "My lover's heart will feel this pin, and his devotion I will win. There will be no way for him to rest nor sleep until he comes to me to speak. Only when he loves me best will he find peace, and with peace rest." That night, the porch light was on.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's the last of the passages about Samhain, or the Alchemy Tree.
But
And
lots of transitions and for Samhain, so many. The girls decide that, okay, we're going to start asking for what we want. They do the alchemy tree. And that's the night that Vincent, quote unquote, dies. And then it's also the night where Jet is like, okay, I'm going to dip my toe back into helping these women turn the porch light on. We're open for business, you know, because she had lost the sight and then she started getting it back, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the trauma, right? Do you think? Because think about like Sally. Sally, she loses certain colors in her sight depending on like every time she loses a husband, right? She loses some kind of color in her eyes and her senses. So I'm thinking maybe that trauma is that maybe that's what did it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a repercussion. What's the word? A punishment because she tried to take her life, right?
Yeah,
And then it was after that.
Yeah.
I think. Was it after that or was it after the accident that she lost the sight? I can't remember.
It might have been after the accident.
Oh, okay.
I also don't remember, so I'm gonna have to read through it again.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, good points. Good points. All kind of alchemical situations there, kind of transmuting something into another. So those are the passages from Rules of Magic, and we in that passage, specifically the one that we read that was featured in Fairy Magazine, we learned that the alchemy tree is in fact an old oak tree. So I wanted to go down this rabbit hole and explore more about the significance of these oak trees. So Kristen, you want to tell us about the oak tree a bit?
Let's do this. So you may or may not already have an oak tree on your property, but you probably don't think much about it. Believe it or not, oak trees were once an important part of European culture and life, possibly even sacred to many. You may have heard the term mighty oak, but many people don't know where it comes from. If you want to learn about the significant roles these outstanding trees have played in various cultures, we're going to tell you all about them. So it's incredibly challenging to put an exact date on species origin, but it's safe to say that oak trees have been around for quite some time. Oak trees are in the same family as chestnut trees, beech trees, and fossils indicate that Fagaceae plant families have been around for more than 80 million years. Although plants from this family have been around much longer than oaks themselves, fossils show evidence that oak trees have been around for close to 30 million years. Researchers found the earliest fossils providing evidence of oak trees in what is known as the state of Georgia, meaning that the U.S. has claimed it as an American tree. Oak trees grow from their fruit, which is the acorn. Although oak trees produce many acorns, very few transform into trees as they're common food source for squirrels and other wildlife. We have a lot of little willow oak trees that pop up and they're irritating. They're really easy to pull out, but you can get a tree so freaking easily from a little acorn. I didn't know how that worked. Now I do.
I heard recently, like I was pretty much today years old when I found out that trees come from when squirrels bury their nuts all over. That's where the trees come from, right?
They're all propagators.
Exactly.
That's so cute.
Little tree farmers.
Tree farmer.
Cute.
All right, let's talk about the Druids. So the Druids were the intellectual class of people who were often philosophers, priests, and judges in France and Britain. Interestingly, oak trees were a significant part of their practices, and they sometimes worshipped them. The name for this group, Druids, comes from the Latin and Greek terms druids or drus, which both mean oak.
Does it?
How about that? Okay.
What? Druid means oak.
I like that.
Oh my God.
The Druids believed that oak trees were sacred and directly from heaven. They performed religious rituals under them, climbed them to collect their leaves and their fruits to use in medicines, and believed these trees harbored significant healing powers. So as far as the Romans and the Greeks, the oak tree plays a significant role in their mythology. Oaks were the sacred tree to Zeus and the eldest Hellenic oracle. Interestingly, priests held gatherings and offered advice or divine consultations beneath oak trees, and they believed Zeus could communicate through the oak tree. Meanwhile, ancient Romans believed that the oak trees were symbolic of Jupiter. That'd be you. And they were believed Jupiter passed wisdom to them through oak trees. Overall, oak trees were a critical part of ancient Roman and Greek culture. As far as the Baltic and Slavic people, some Slavic people believe that some of the gods that they worshiped lived in the oak trees, and they had various holy places in oak forests. Furthermore, the oak tree represented the world. The trunk and the branches symbolized heaven and the living world, while the root system represented the underworld. In Baltic mythology, oaks are the sacred trees of the thunder god, who directs his thunder to evil spirits. In Christianity across Europe, the oak tree followed. Many stories indicated that they crucified Jesus on a cross made of oak, and Christians also constructed various churches and cathedrals out of oak. Back in these early times, people built boats from various animal hides. However, Christians began building them from oak. Although Christians didn't worship oak trees, they still used them in many ways in their religious and daily lives. And a little tidbit that I told Justina, she's probably irritated with hearing about. I just learned that the HMS Victory, Admiral Nelson, his flagship during the Battle of Trafalgar, most of those boats were created out of oak. 90% of each boat was created out of oak. And that one specific boat took 6,000 trees to build it. So I know at that time, especially European, the UK, deforestation was a big deal. They were cutting down millions of trees to put fleets together.
Right. Well, if you think if that's like the main source of transportation back then, like they didn't have airplanes, how else are they going to get across a freaking body of water?
What floats? Wood floats.
Exactly. So that makes complete sense. And like, we never think about in history, was deforestation a problem? We never think about that. But like, that's a good point. Never thought about that before. Yeah. But yeah, I guess they would have to cut down tons of trees in order to build a ship that big.
Oh, massive. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good information.
So oak trees and lightning, while it's relatively uncommon for lightning to strike close to the ground, lightning is more likely to hit oak trees rather than any other tree because oak trees are very tall and have higher water content. Lightning seems to find them more frequently than other trees or structures. So maybe don't put an oak tree near your house. I have 4.
Oh my God.
I didn't have a choice.
Okay. There's so many oak trees over by where I work and when like I walk the dog. So many oak trees. I don't know if these are oak tree leaves. They might be a different kind of leaf because I was just collecting different leaves.
They're so pretty.
But look at the size. Wait, hold on. Look at the size of this leaf next to my head.
Oh my God. That's huge. Those are so pretty.
Are ginormous. The trees are ginormous. The leaves are ginormous. And there's one that I walk under that, gives off a lot of acorns. And I walk past it with my hood up like this because I'm afraid an acorn's going to fall on my head and fucking kill me. That's how big they are.
That's so cool. Yeah, those are beautiful.
I just collected a whole bunch of them. So gorgeous. Yeah. Anyway.
So many cultures and religions believe their God spoke to them through thunder, lightning, and the oak trees. The history of oak trees is incredibly intriguing, and they're one of the longest standing trees. And now that you know a little bit about their role in various cultures and religions, you could also learn some of the symbolisms behind these mighty giants. So let's talk about some things that they represent. They can represent commitment and love. Believe it or not, the oak tree is an important symbol of love and commitment. Many people even believe they're symbolic of the 80th wedding anniversary.
Aww.
And who's a number 8? I don't know. I'm just trying to put this all together.
I am, but I'm not celebrating my 80th wedding anniversary.
I know. I'm grasping at straws.
Oh, it's funny.
Oak trees have a long lifespan, and it's an excellent representation of the 80. Who the hell is celebrating an 80-year wedding anniversary?
Fucking time. If you can both live that long, God bless you.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. It's an excellent representation of the life the couple builds together, even though many couples don't reach this milestone in their lifetimes. It can represent healing and protection. And as we previously mentioned, the Druids believe that the oak trees harbored extensive healing powers. Ancient people used parts of the oak tree for medicinal purposes since the very beginning. In fact, oak is still a common ingredient in many holistic medicines. Furthermore, the Druids also believed that burning oak wood was an effective solution to protect them from harm, a practice that some carry to this day.
Wait, before you go on to the next part, I just want to this part is kind of like making the light bulb click for me. Maybe that's why Alice decided to name this red oak tree the alchemy tree because healing and protection. And what do we know about alchemy? It was, associated with the elixir of life, immortality, healing, curing things.
Yeah.
So that makes so much sense.
I'm curious. You know the scene where the boys run across the grassy knoll? I
Yeah.
always picture like a group of trees on that grassy knoll. Am
Really?
I making that up? I want to reread that because are those oak trees? Is that why the lightning was drawn there?
Good point.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I always pictured it as like a wide open field, but maybe
Mm.
you're right. Maybe I didn't pick up that detail.
I will have to reread it. Yeah. You've also probably heard of the term mighty oak in reference to oak tree, and that's because they're incredibly sturdy trees and they can withstand even the most horrendous weather conditions. And the oak tree's ability to tolerate almost anything makes it a perfect symbol of strength, stability, and power. And lastly, knowledge and wisdom. Many ancient cultures believed that oak trees were a vast source of wisdom and that the trees were a way for the gods to communicate with them. They hoped this knowledge from their gods and the oak trees could help them settle disputes and wars. Today, oak trees remain a symbol of knowledge. So, after learning more about the history of oak trees and why people worship them, you may look at them slightly differently. Many people have oak trees on their property without even realizing or caring for them. Luckily, these trees are very resilient and can survive different weather and climate conditions. If you don't have oaks in your yard yet, you may want to consider buying oak trees online. We have a link for you. Whether or not you have extensive gardening experience or can grow oak trees, they require very little care and are relatively low maintenance additions to your landscape. So consider maybe for Arbor Day,
Oh,
planting
yeah.
a little oak tree.
Yeah. Is Arbor Day the same as Earth Day? That's like in the spring, right?
I don't know. You're probably right. I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't think it's anytime soon. Like I don't think anybody's planting trees around Samhain, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be a cool Samhain tradition that you can start, get
Yeah.
your oak tree planting ritual on. That whole section, it begs the next question. Are there really any oak trees in Central Park? Because Alice places this grand red oak tree in Central Park, and you put things in books if you're an author. You fictionalize stuff, but I'm like, how much truth is behind, her portrayal of the oak tree in Central Park?
Hmm.
How much truth into that? So I did a little digging, and yes, the answer is yes. There are many different types of oak trees in Central Park, New York City. So according to centralparknyc.org, there are many oak trees in Central Park, New York City, including the English oak, which can be located east of the West Drive at 70th Street. And this tree has smooth gray to black brown bark, alternate leaves that are 2 to 5 inches long, and green to brown acorns. Then we have our star of the day, the red oak. This popular deciduous tree has spreading branches and leaves with sharp points, and you can find large clusters of red oaks in the North Woods and south of Oak Bridge in the Ramble. And we heard Alice talk about the Ramble in that passage, right? Mm-hmm. Next, we have the pin oak, a hardy species that can live in urban parks. Pin oaks provide shade, fall color, and food for squirrels. You can find pin oaks in Central Park West, East Meadow, and Derry. Next, we have the black oak, a native oak to Central Park. The black oak has dark bark on mature trees. The inner bark is a yellowish orange, and European settlers in North America used it to make a yellow dye. Next, we have the willow oak, and you can find willow oaks in Mid-Park at 73rd and 79th Streets. And then lastly, we have the European turkey oak, and you can find those all over Central Park. I think using the context clues given in the passage that Alice has, put in her book, we can surmise that the type of oak tree that Franny and Jet are underneath during their Samhain wish ritual was most likely the red oak. In the book passage, it says, "Near the Ramble was the Alchemy Tree, an ancient oak hidden in a glen few park goers ever glimpsed, a gigantic twisted specimen whose roots grew up from the ground in knotty bumps." And also in that article on centralparknyc.org, it says, "Visit the North Woods or just south of Oak Bridge in the Bramble," when in regards to where to find the red oak. And also, if we take one more look at that illustration in the Fairy Magazine Practical Magic issue, the beautiful illustration done by Charles Vess, he depicts the tree with red leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the alchemy tree is most certainly the red oak.
I love it.
So we have found our culprit in the book. I guess let's get into the red oak now more specifically, now that we did like a more generalized, like all about the oaks. Mm-hmm. More specifically, the red oak is a popular deciduous street and lawn tree with spreading branches, and you can stumble upon the red oak throughout Central Park. For particularly large clusters of them, you can visit the North Woods or just south of Oak Bridge in the Ramble.
There you
Right?
go.
There you go. And it's easy to tell the red oak from other oak trees because red oak leaves contain sharp points. The leaves are between 4 to 9 inches long, 3 to 6 inches wide, elliptical, and sharply pointed. So as far as the fruit, it bears flat, saucer-shaped acorns, and the flowers, it bears typical yellow-green catkins that come out with the leaves. The bark is silver gray, rough, and is furrowed into scaly ridges. So I also thought it was an interesting choice that Alice decided to place an ancient red oak in her Samhain scene. In Native American culture, the northern red oak is more than just a tree. It's a sacred emblem intertwining the physical and spiritual worlds. Its towering nature is seen as a conduit between earth and sky, a living testament to the tribe's reverence for nature. So let's talk about red oaks and their association with alchemy. So in alchemy, oak trees, including red oaks, hold symbolic and metaphysical significance due to their association with strength, endurance, wisdom, and transformation. Key themes within the alchemical practice. So here's how the red oaks are linked to alchemy. Firstly, it's a symbol of strength and stability in transformation. Alchemy is the process of transformation both in physical materials, turning base metals into gold, and spiritual evolution, achieving enlightenment, right? What we were saying before, going through the stages of life and becoming that, attaining that higher version of yourself. That's enlightenment, right? The red oak represents the strength and stability required for this process. Just as the oak stands strong over centuries, alchemical transformation requires persistence, resilience, and the ability to endure challenges. The tree's deep roots symbolize being grounded in the material world, which is essential before ascending to the spiritual heights, which is maybe that can be represented by the branches and the leaves extending out to the sky, right? Next, we have the connection to wisdom and knowledge. So oaks, including red oaks, are often viewed as symbols of wisdom, a crucial aspect of alchemy. The pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone in alchemy is not just about transforming metals, but also about attaining philosophical and divine wisdom. Alchemists often saw oak trees as sacred, representing gnosis, which is also known as higher knowledge, that they sought to understand the universe's secrets. Red oak, with its longevity and ability to thrive, mirrors the alchemist's quest for deeper knowledge and self-realization.
I love that. I wanted to say that you and I talk about the collective consciousness a lot. And visually, to me, that's like here. That's all third eye kind of stuff. But
Crown.
we are so similar to trees in that their roots are they're talking to each other. We talked about this in our leaf episode that they are sentient and they can
Yes.
communicate with each other that way. And I love that so much.
Yeah. It's just such a beautiful concept. It's
know.
mind blowing.
We don't deserve them.
We don't deserve trees, right? Yeah, but we need them because we will die. We need your oxygen. So, nextly, the 4 elements in alchemy and oak trees. So, in alchemical practices, the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, are essential components of the transformation process. And trees are often seen as manifestations of these elements in nature. So, firstly, let's talk about earth. The oak's strong roots symbolize the earth element, grounding and providing nourishment. Alchemists view earth as the base or the starting point in any transformative process, much like the oak's roots in the soil. Next, we have air. The oak's leaves and the branches, which extend into the air, symbolize the element of air, representing spirit and intellectual thought. Red oak, like other oaks, is seen as a bridge between earth and sky, between the physical and spiritual realms. Next, we have fire. Oak wood, especially red oak, has been prized for its ability to burn long and hot, representing the fire element in alchemy. Fire is essential in the purification process, both physically in the burning of materials and symbolically in the transformation of spirit. And then we have water. The sap of the oak and its reliance on water for growth symbolizes the element of water, which in alchemy is linked to emotions, intuition, and the fluidity of change. The oak's connection to water symbolizes the alchemical process of dissolution and the fluidity required for transformation. So next we have the Philosopher's Stone and immortality. Red oaks, known for their long lifespan, are often viewed as symbols of endurance and immortality in alchemical philosophy. This ties into the alchemist's ultimate goal, to create the Philosopher's Stone, which is then believed to grant eternal life and wisdom. The oak's ability to survive for hundreds of years mirrors the alchemical quest for eternal life and spiritual transcendence. In this sense, the red oak is a living symbol of longevity, patience, and the slow but meaningful progress of transformation. Next, we have the sacred tree and the axis mundi. In many traditions, the oak is seen as a cosmic tree, or axis mundi, also known as the world axis, connecting the heavens and the earth and the underworld. In alchemy, this concept is important as it represents the integration of all levels of existence: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The red oak, with its strong presence, embodies this connection and serves as a reminder that true alchemical transformation requires balance and harmony across all levels of existence. And next, we have something called quercus and alchemical correspondences. So in alchemical herbalism, plants and trees are often used as symbols and actual ingredients in alchemical operations. Quercus, the oak genus, is linked to Mars, the planet associated with strength, willpower, and action, qualities needed in the alchemical process. Mars represents fire and transformation, reinforcing the oak's connection to the alchemical work of purification and refinement. So let's talk about the oak as a symbol of purification. In the alchemical process, the negredo, blackening, or decomposition stage is where substances are broken down before they can be purified. The oak tree, especially red oak with its richly colored wood, is connected to this idea of death and rebirth, a process that leads to purification and renewal. The oak's ability to endure through the seasons, shedding its leaves and growing anew, mirrors the alchemical cycle of death, purification, and transformation into something higher. So in summary, red oak trees are associated with alchemy through their symbols of strength, wisdom, endurance, and the balance of their four elements. As enduring, transformative figures in nature, they reflect the alchemical process of turning base materials, or even the self, into something elevated and refined, embodying the journey towards spiritual and material perfection. And perhaps that's what Franny and Jet went to that tree to do, right?
Yeah.
To kind of get in touch with those parts of themselves that they've hidden for so long.
And again, I love that it's Jet like whispering, "Come on, that's just one wish." And Franny's like, no. Fool me once.
Right. Yeah. So there are so in Native American cultures, the red oak tree is often considered a sacred symbol, representing strength, longevity, and a connection between earthly and spiritual realms due to its towering stature. And many tribes viewed it as a conduit for communication with the Great Spirit, and with some legends even depicting the tree as a dwelling place for spirits or ancestors. So again, interesting that Franny and Jet go to this alchemy tree on Samhain, the ultimate night of the thinning of the veil, to commune with spirits that might grant them these wishes that they so seek to, have come to fruition.
Do you ever think about like what you're gonna have done with your body when you die?
Oh, I want to be a tree for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, plant me in the ground.
I know. I was thinking about that. Like, do I want to be scattered somewhere? Do I want to just plant me? I don't know. Do I want like a certain people to have a little bit of me? Like you take me, you take this part. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be in a box under the ground, and I don't know if I want to be fish food either. So just make me into something beautiful. I love like wooden elements. Like I like using wood in a lot of my home decor. I have these beautiful Balinese hand carved like nightstands that Avi wants to get rid of. And I was like, I will never get rid of them. I love them. They're like natural wood, and I just love like wooden things and carved things and like things that look like they were made out of oak trees and sometimes I have little bowls of like chestnuts and leaves and things related to trees. And I told you my tree story, my Ron Jeremy childhood tree story. I've always had this connection to trees, and I cried when my childhood tree was cut down. So I think for sure I would definitely want to come back as a tree as long as it was promised that I would never be cut down,
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have to put some kind of trust. Like this is a memorial tree.
And that would be my generational curse. I will curse anybody who tries to cut me down.
Oh shit. Okay.
Don't cut me down or you're gonna die. Like the devil's tree in Weird, New Jersey.
Oh god.
I'm gonna have some random guy in a pickup truck chase out teenagers who try to fuck with me.
Oh, stop.
I told you that story, right?
Yes, you did. That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
You're in
hire
business for life.
some random. I'm gonna steal the soul of some random guy who forever is gonna drive a pickup truck chasing kids away from trying to fuck with me. Yeah. Oh. So, getting back to the Native American legends, strength and resilience, the red oak's sturdy trunk and ability to withstand harsh conditions symbolize strength, the capacity to endure challenges, mirroring, and the resilience of the people. Wisdom and guidance, some tribes believe that sitting beneath a red oak could provide access to wisdom and guidance from the spirits, allowing them to make important decisions. Franny and Jet, right? Ancestral connection. Certain legends associate the red oak with spirits of the ancestors, with its leaves rustling considered a way for ancestors to communicate with the living.
I love that.
One thing that makes me think of when Franny wishes for the bird and she hears the bird whisper something back. Do you think that's the spirit of their ancestor Maria? Because Maria lost her familiar, Caden. Right? So this is kind of like a connection that Franny shares with her ancestor, is this veneration for birds and her connection with these birds. And maybe that was a gift from Maria in that moment.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Right? So that just made me think of Caden. And like, even though like that, she didn't name the bird Caden, like she named it, I forget what she named it, but
Lewis?
yeah. Lewis, yeah. After Lewis Carroll, right? Something like that. Yeah.
Unless that's the herring.
I think you might be right.
Okay.
I think you might be right.
There's too many goddamn birds in this story.
I know.
But I want to say, like, if you've ever sat outside in the autumn when the leaves are getting crinkly and dry and they start rustling, and it's just like, it's one of the most beautiful sounds.
Sounds like whispering.
It does sound like whispering.
Whispering, yeah. And then also we have healing power. In some Native American traditions, the red oak's bark and acorns were used for medicinal purposes, further enhancing its connection to healing and well-being. So, some important points to consider. Tribal variations. So, while the red oak holds significant meaning across many Native American tribes, specific legends and interpretations can vary depending on the tribe and region. And then also acorns as a use of symbolism. The acorns produced by the red oak are also symbolic, often representing fertility, renewal, and the promise of future generations. So, Central Park has well over 170 species of trees, including elms and oaks. The North Woods and the landscape around the Harlem Mere are home to some of the most impressive trees, many of which are 100 years old. One name that Alice mentions in her Alchemy Tree passage in Rules of Magic is Frederick Law Olmsted. But Christina, what does this have to do with Central Park?
Well, Frederick Law Olmsted was an American landscape architect, journalist, and social critic and public administrator, widely regarded as the father of landscape architecture in the U.S. And he is best known for co-designing some of the country's most famous parks, including Central Park in New York, which he developed alongside his partner, Cal Vervo. Their collaboration extended to other significant projects like Prospect Park in Brooklyn, Caldwalder Park in Trenton, New Jersey. Did I say that right?
Codwalla. I don't know. I've never heard that. Codwalla. I can't even say it. Cadwallader.
And Forest Park in Portland, Oregon. His landscape architect firm, Olmsted Brothers, was carried on by his sons Frederick Jr. and John C. and continued operating until 1980. Olmsted's contemporaries recognized his landscape architecture for its brilliance and vision. Daniel Burnham, a renowned architect, praised Olmsted's work, saying, "He paints with lakes and wooded slopes, with lawns and banks and forest-covered hills, with mountainsides and ocean views." That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of like reminds me of like that whole visual painting that Alice kind of painted for us with her word imagery, right? And that whole passage of that alchemy tree.
Word soup.
Word soup.
Olmsted's work, particularly in Central Park, established standards of excellence that continue to influence modern landscape architecture. A pivotal figure in the conservation movement, Olmsted's contributions extended to Niagara Falls and the Adirondack region and the National Park System. During the American Civil War, Olmsted headed the U.S. Sanitary Commission, a precursor to the Red Cross, organizing and providing medical services to the Union Army. Olmsted's career in journalism and his travels to England were instrumental in shaping his ideas about public parks. His visit to Joseph Paxton's Birkenhead Park in 1850 greatly influenced his later work leading to the design of Central Park in New York City. His writings include Walks and Talks of an American Farmer in England, 1852, which played a role in securing commissions. Andrew Jackson Downing, a landscape architect and mentor to Olmsted, introduced him to Calvert Vaux after Downing's untimely death. Olmsted and Vaux entered and won the design competition for Central Park and their Greensward plan in 1858. This collaboration marked the beginning of Olmsted's long and influential career in park design. Olmsted's vision for Central Park embodied his egalitarian ideals, believing that green spaces should be accessible to all citizens regardless of social class. He was influenced by his mentor Downing and by observations of social dynamics in England, China, and the American South. Olmsted's fight to preserve public access to the parks during his tenure as Central Park's commissioner was pivotal in shaping the idea of the modern public park. After their success with Central Park, Olmsted and Vaux continued to collaborate on other projects such as Prospect Park in Brooklyn. Vaux, however, remained somewhat in the shadows of Olmsted's growing public persona. In 1861, Olmsted took leave from his work on Central Park to serve as executive secretary to the U.S. Sanitary Commission, where he provided critical services during the Civil War. His legacy lived on through his sons, who continued operating their father's firm under the name Olmsted Brothers, shaping landscapes across America. In honor of his contribution, several landscapes bear Olmsted's name, including Olmsted Point in Yosemite National Park and Residence Hall at the University of Hartford. The Frederick Olmsted National Historic Site in Brookline, Massachusetts, preserves his former home and studio, commemorating his legacy and the father of American landscape architecture.
Yeah.
How cool!
Yeah. So I guess he had a lot to do. I don't know, maybe if he had anything to do with the planting of any of the red oaks there.
Oh, I'm sure. That
Yeah.
is such a cool trade or skill or
Park
career,
designer.
Yeah, landscape architect. Oh my God.
Central Park's huge.
Yeah.
Oh my
Fucking huge.
God. Yeah, huge. You know what's in Central Park? The John Lennon Memorial. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
like a stone carving in the ground that says Imagine, and people like to go there and leave flowers and stuff, and we went to visit there a couple years ago.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and there's people just sitting around playing guitar, singing John Lennon songs. It's pretty dope.
Aw.
Yeah.
I really think about that movie with Jodie Foster where her and her boyfriend get mugged and then they
In
kill the
Central Park?
boyfriend. Yeah.
Oh shit. Well, yeah, there's a lot of muggings in Central Park too. I mean, there's good things, there's bad things. You gotta take the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place for a mugging.
Welcome to New York. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so we're gonna get back to the last two books here. I scoured Practical Magic. I wasn't really finding anything as far as alchemy is concerned. Maybe it mentioned the aunts and their youthful look because of the black soap, which if we're thinking about alchemy and the Fountain of Youth, that could have some correspondences there. And also I'm sure there's tons of mentions of oaks in the Practical Magic book. I just didn't really go too down that rabbit hole. A lot of the oak mentions in these books are kind of generic mentions, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really include too much of that. As far as the Book of Magic goes, on page 161, talking about Ian's tattoos, this says, the sleeve of tattoos on his left arm began with the hand of alchemy. Above each finger floated a sun, a star, a key, a crown, and a bell. In the palm of the hand there was a fish. On his torso, a dragon, a magic circle from the Book of Solomon, the triangle of elemental fire, a demon trap with a scorpion in the center with Hebrew letters surrounding it, skulls and pentacles, intricate images that twisted around each other in a single shade of blue. Now, before we get into the Hand of the Philosophers, because it's also called the Hand of Philosophers, in this book, though, Alice refers to it as the Hand of Alchemy. It's the same thing. Did we talk about this at all with Selena when we talked to her?
I don't think directly. I think you and I talked about it just between us.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so let's get into that. So the emblem of the Hand of the Philosophers should be quite familiar as it is often used in modern books on alchemy. This was originally an illustration on Isaac Holland's book, Die Hand. Oh, I guess is this French or Die
Hand or Philosopher.
Oh, right. So what is that, Norwegian?
I don't know.
Die Handers Philosophen, the writings of Holland, who cannot yet be unidentified with a definite historical person, appeared at the end of the 16th century and were revived in the mid-17th century and reprinted reprinted a number of times up to the end of the 18th century. The images placed on the hand are evocative, and it is tempting for people to interpret these through their present-day belief systems. However, the author has left us a clear statement of their meaning. This is from his book, Die Hand, of 1667. So below it is shown on the left the engraving from 1667 and on the right that from the 1743 version of the work. Now if you Google this image, the Hand of the Philosophers or the Hand of Alchemy, a lot of different versions of this come up. So it's been reinterpreted by different artists over the years.
Interesting.
So you can find many different versions of this. But those who have not this hand and do not understand its secret signs, they do not possess the philosopher's treasure. In this hand is locked the secret of the philosophers, that is, of the seed and the earth, as will be told later. First, look at the thumb on which a crown stands below the quarter moon. By this, this is weird how this is written. It's like backwards. By this is meant saltpeter, for just as the thumb vigorously finishes off the hand, saltpeter does in the alchemical art, for he is the king and lord of all salts.
I love that.
Can you imagine being the king of the salts?
Oh my god.
He is the mill through which everything must be ground. The index finger. The second sign and secret of the philosophers is the star with 6 points, standing above the forefinger next to the thumb. It is compared to the Roman vitriol because no work that is to be perfect can be completed without vitriol, for it is the greatest and strongest salt after saltpeter. So he's saltpeter's wingman.
Okay.
Let's call him the wingman.
Yeah. And going back to our last episode with the witch hats, 2 episodes ago, triangles, the double triangle, one laid on top of the other, one's upside down. That's the 6-pointed star we were talking about then. So cross-reference those two, figure out what that means.
Full circle moment. Okay, so next we have the middle finger. The third sign is the sun standing above the middle finger, and by it, sal ammoniac is designated, for apart from saltpeter and vitriol, nothing more powerful is found. Then we have the ring finger. The fourth sign of the philosophers is the lantern standing above the fourth finger of the hand, whereby alum is indicated. For without alum, no perfect work can be accomplished, because it is required for the red and the white. It has an astonishing nature and a most subtle spirit. Then the little finger. The fifth secret and sign is the key of the philosophers, standing above the little finger. Simultaneously, it is the lock of the hand. That is why the key is standing on it. By it, common salt is designated, for salt is the key in this art. Then we have the middle of the hand. The sixth secret sign is the fish. It stands in the middle of the hand and signifies Mercury, for without Mercury, or the fish, nothing can be done. He is the beginning, the middle, and the end, and he is the priest who must marry everything. He is the male and the seed. He is the water out of which all metals have originated, and he is the principal factor of all arts, and the greatest of all secrets. So I guess because the fish is synonymous with like mercury poisoning, you know, all that.
There was one other reference in our research that said Mercury was feminine, which I was like, to me that doesn't make sense, because Mercury, the Greek god, they're masculine. Well, we're not that we have to put a label on it, but to me, Mercury is masculine.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Hermes, that's who I'm thinking of.
I was thinking of Poseidon, because like Triton, you know, the god of the under the sea, right? The underworld.
Neptune, though. Yeah.
Is it Neptune? Wait, Neptune, Poseidon.
Triton is Poseidon's son.
Okay, so it's one of the sea gods, right?
Yeah.
But yes, Neptune. I think that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah. That would make sense.
I could see how wait a minute. Mercury, is that the same symbol as Neptune? Like the alchemical symbol?
Let's see. Neptune has the trident. So it's like the stick with the 3 pokies at the top. And Mercury is a little female sign, but with the little horns on it.
Oh, okay. The last image of the hand is the palm. It says the seventh sign of the philosophers is fire. By this, sulfur is indicated. It is the earth and beginning of of all metals. It is the female who brings forth the fruit, for no seed can grow unless it be first thrown into fertile soil. Then beautiful fruit will come from it. Thus it also happens when a pure mercury is joined to a pure sulfur. This brings forth pure fruit. Thus they are man and woman, father and mother, fire and water, seed and earth. And didn't it say before when it talking about alchemy that, in order to achieve alchemy, you have to marry opposing forces?
Yes, it did. Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, that is interesting. So in 1647, the book Hermetischer Probierstein, the Hermetic Touchstone or Tested Stone, was published at Frankfurt. Dr. Frank. Yeah, it drew on the work of alchemist and professor of chemistry at Marburg, Oswald Kroll. It included a short section, Hermetischer Wunderbaum, the Hermetic Miracle Tree, a series of engravings based on the hand of the philosophers. So here the creator of these emblems take the Isaac Holland idea somewhat further by placing the hand with its symbol into a flask and distilling it. Interesting. And then there's another variation of the alchemical hand. Here, the fingers bear the conventional symbols of the relevant substances, and this also has an interesting diagram of symbols set above the moon, forming a little pentagon, though rather irregular in shape. So was that what you were talking about? The pentagon thing?
No, the above the pointer finger. That star is 6-pointed, and we were talking about the triangle in the last episode. If you take one triangle and then put another one on top of it and flip it.
Right. Yeah, the thing above the thumb kind of looks like is that supposed to be a pentagon? It kind of looks like triangular, like a downwards triangle a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Yep, it's got five little points. There's 3 like separate alchemical symbols in here, but it looks like they mashed together a bunch of planetary symbols.
Yeah, I'm seeing the sun, but mashed with like the female one, Venus, yes. And then it also looks like
Pluto, and then we have Mercury inverted. We have the moon, and that's it.
Okay, yeah. And then there's a beautiful painting in Mellon, MS-106 in the Benek Library at Yale. It looks like a water jug or something with the alchemical hand in it with the, like a script or something, like what is that called?
Yeah, a banner of some kind.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I'm wondering because like distilling is freaking alchemy, turning fruit into alcohol. And in the one you read before, they painted it into probably like a copper distilling vessel. So this next one, it looks like they went even further and put that vessel in some kind of like oven or an additional vessel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's being like baked, like clay baked or something. Right. Yeah. Another version of La Main Alchemique, this time mirror reversed, is found as a pen drawing in the 17th century, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris. L'Aurore des Soeurs Henry de Lintout. Lintout? I don't know. Don't ask me to speak French. Don't ask me to speak French. Yeah, so I guess this isn't an inverted hand. It's the other hand, right?
Yes.
And some of the images they're a little more cartoony. They're kind of cute. I like this one.
Yeah, they're hand drawn. They're very cute.
Yeah. I can't see what's on the wrist. It looks like Jupiter. The symbol for Jupiter is on the wrist. And I see the moon. The sun. Yeah, there's a bunch of different symbols on the wrist as well. We will post all of these photos we're looking at. We'll post these over on the show notes on our hero page so you guys can look at what we're looking at, because I know it's just right now they're just listening to us name symbols. They can't really see what the images look like, but these are really fascinating. And then also, as far as the tattoo on Ian's torso in that passage, it refers to the circle from the Book of Solomon. In the context of the Book of Solomon, also known as the Key of Solomon, the circle refers to a magical circle drawn on the ground during ceremonial rituals used to create a protected space to summon and control spirits, often considered to be demons. By invoking the power of King Solomon through specific incantations and symbols. This circle is often depicted with geometric designs and is considered essential for safeguarding the practitioner from harm during such practices. I think this is this is probably considered necromancy, right?
Probably.
Yeah. I think I actually even read about this in that book that I'm reading, The History of Seances by Lisa Morton.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit about this in that book,
This
probably.
is, yeah, super
Yeah.
fascinating. I
Yeah.
have a suggestion. Anytime we have our demons tete-a-tete, we should have like a sound effect in the background, like a chorus.
Diamonds. Yeah. So some key points about the circle. So the symbolic meaning. The circle represents a boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm, acting as a barrier to prevent spirits from escaping or causing harm. The circle is often inscribed with specific symbols and names from the Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, including the names of God, angels, and planetary alignments, which are believed to enhance the power of the ritual. And then you have the ritual practice when performing a summoning. Yeah, this is definitely necromancy. A summoning ritual. Yeah, when performing a summoning ritual, the practitioner would stand within the circle while calling upon the desired spirit, using the circle's protective power to maintain control over the entity. So it says some important considerations. The quote seal of Solomon, often associated with the circle, is the seal of Solomon, a symbolic design, usually a pentagram or hexagram, which is believed to represent the ultimate power of King Solomon over the spiritual realm. The, quote, Book of Solomon is considered a medieval grimoire, meaning a magical text containing instructions for performing spells and rituals, with its origins likely dating back to the Middle Ages. And I don't know if this has anything to do with the magus that Vincent was like carrying around throughout the entire Rules of Magic book, right?
That's getting its own episode, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So next is the magical circle. So this is the form of the magical circle of King Solomon, that which he made that he might preserve himself therein from the malice of these evil spirits. This magical circle is to be made 9 feet across, and the divine names are to be written around it, beginning at YEH and ending at LEVANAH. So the space between the outer and inner circles, where the serpent is coiled with the Hebrew names written along his body, is bright deep yellow. The square is in the center of the circle, where the word master is written, is filled in with red. All names and letters are in black. In the hexagrams, the outer triangles where the letters A, D, O, and A, I appear are filled in with bright yellow. The centers where the T-shaped cross are blue or green. In the pentagrams outside the circle, the outer triangles where Tetragrammaton is written are filled in with bright yellow, and the centers with the T crosses written therein are red. The Books of Solomon are a collection of works that are believed to be based on ancient practices of Jewish Kabbalah and the Arab alchemy. The book is divided into 2 books. Book 1 contains conjurations, curses, and invocations to summon spirits and demons. Book 2 describes how to purify oneself, how to clothe oneself, and how to construct magical implements. The Greater Key of Solomon. This book is traditionally divided into 2 books. Book 1 explains how to use conjurations, curses, spells, and other magical works, and Book 2 instructs the practitioner on how to obtain the goals of the Goetia. Then we have the Lesser Key of Solomon. This book is traditionally divided into 5 books. The Ars Goetia, the Ars Thurja Goetia, the Ars Paulina, the Ars Almadel, and the Ars Notoria. The books are based on the Testament of Solomon and the ring that he used to seal demons. So basically, I guess he used that ring to keep the demons in from escaping. So then that, I guess maybe that was like his shield of protection.
Okay.
In alchemy, the Philosopher's Stone was sought as a medicine that could repair the human body and increase life almost indefinitely. According to the Jewish Virtual Library, Solomon learned the secret of the Philosopher's Stone from his father, David. There you go.
David and Goliath, David?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and one other, was it the Ouroboros? What is it? The
Yeah,
snake.
you got it right.
coiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is also inside of this circle around these star-shaped images. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break right now, and when we come back, we're going to go a little deeper with the alchemy. We're going to talk about alchemy around the world, and then we're also going to dive into the alchemic tree of life and the Kabbalistic tree of life, as well as talk all about the oak tree, its medicine, magic, mythology, and different meanings. So stick around, we'll be right back.
Next week on Magnolia Street, We're breaking from the norm and diving deep into a chilling true crime special. A story of love, obsession, and a deadly secret, all set in a seemingly peaceful, small coastal town. Magnolia Street Podcast presents Charmed and Dangerous, a tale of two sisters who thought they could bear the past, but some secrets refuse to stay hidden. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the mysterious disappearance of serial killer Jimmy Angelo and explore the dark, tangled web that connects the Owens family to a legacy of love and loss. If you think you know the story, think again. Next week, here on Magnolia Street.
Hey little witches, Justina here, calling all practical magic fans and music lovers. This fall, get ready for something truly spellbinding from the Stinas. Christina and I started Magnolia Street Podcast as a way to share our original music inspired by our favorite movie, Practical Magic. We've been hard at work in the recording studio since September, brewing up our 5-song debut EP, Magnolia Street Volume 1.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you go down to Magnolia Street with the wisteria wild? At the house of magic and mystery, so would you go down to Magnolia Street?
You want the inside scoop on our music and the stories behind each song? Join our Rose tier on Patreon for just $8 a month and dive into exclusive content from our songisodes. Plus, bonus content from our highly anticipated upcoming EP. On there, you'll find lyric sheets, original demos, behind-the-scenes videos from the studio, blog posts, production notes, and more. Don't miss out on the magic. Keep up to date with us on our Instagram at Magnolia Street Podcast for all of our music news and be a part of our musical journey. The Stinas are bringing practical magic to life, one song at a time, right here on Magnolia Street.
You didn't go down to Magnolia Street. Magnolia Street.
Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast.
All right, so I guess we're gonna do a card pull.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me when to stop.
Earth, air, fire, water. Earth, air, fire, water. Earth, fire, water. Stop. The full moon.
Motherfucking moon.
How about that?
The moon. So the keyword on this card is control. So the keywords on this card is control and set free. So with the full moon comes a lot of energy and intense magic. The universe is telling you to release your control and give it up to the divine. This is reassurance that everything will work out. Embrace the power of the full moon and her magical energy, for she will guide you. We don't always need to be in the driver's seat. Take a step back and allow the magic to do its work. Allow the alchemy to work its magic, right?
I want to be the driver. I hate not being in control.
Christina, stop being a backseat driver.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Yeah, Avi wants to kill me half the time. Sometimes the best thing we can do is set things free to allow for better things to grow in their place. Take a look within and without, asking yourself what it is that you can let go. Use this card during the full moon cycle and readings to harness its energy. And the mantra on this card is I release and I let go. So there you go.
Lovely.
Yeah. So we just had a beautiful full moon. Did you see that? Did you see the full moon? Was it the hunter
Oh
moon?
no, it was a full moon. You're right. It was an Aries.
Yeah. Oh my, it was huge.
I only know that because I was on my period during that time, and I was like, ah!
You want to murder people? Yeah, it was beautiful. It was so big.
Yeah.
Salem story, real quick. We were watching the show, and this was like earlier on in the first season. We're like on season 2 now. So they were talking about we have to get it done by the hunter moon, and like I'm like going to Avi, I'm like, that means October.
And I'm like, right now.
And I'm telling him, and I forget they were at the full buck moon. They were during the full buck moon, and they were saying like they were, talking about the points in time depending on like what the moon was. And they were like, we're in the full buck moon. We only have until the full hunter moon to get this done. And I was like, that means they're in July and they only have until October.
You're like a Gen Zer trying to explain shit to elder millennials.
to not a witch trying to explain shit to muggles. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
That's so
funny.
cute.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I am translating things for him. I'm translating the witch talk.
Kind of like when the dude in your show is like, Melius Maleficarum. And you're like, what the fuck? That's a book, my guy.
I'm like, that means Hammer of Witches. Why would you just say that? That makes no sense.
They did not have a witch on payroll to help them.
Clearly they did not. Because I'm just like, my head is spinning, and I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. Awesome show. I love the show. I'm freaking hooked. I'm hooked. But some of it is a little like, come on.
Yeah.
Can you do a little research?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like, Avi's just like laughing at me. He's like, you're annoying.
Know it all.
You're annoying to watch
love
things with. Anyway.
No, well, actually.
Yeah. If anybody hasn't learned anything from listening to us do our practical magic, what was it? The commentary that we did?
We will go out of our way to prove a point.
Practical magic in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Implements.
Mr. Apples.
Mr. Apples.
Yeah, so good. All right.
Here comes Gary.
Yeah, what were we saying? Half of the quotes in that TikTok video, that reel that you put together, I die every time.
They're so funny. Okay, let's go around the world.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're going to stop in Egypt first because I feel like everything started in Egypt. Have you ever read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or have you ever heard of the Book of the Dead?
I've heard of it. Is it for sale?
Actually, it is. I was in Barnes and Noble like a month ago, and I was scrolling the bargain books, and they fucking have that shit on like clearance for $3.99, and I was like,
I don't know about all that.
I don't know about all that. Yeah, they're just like selling the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but who knows?
Does it come with Rick O'Connell?
Does it come with Billy Zane?
That poor man. The other guy, whatever his name, Arnold Vosloo, whatever his name.
Oh no. But I just posted a Billy Zane meme before because he came up in our feed, and I posted this. So it was like him with a cigarette in his mouth.
He's so handsome.
And look, can you read that? Or is it backwards?
Hey, remember that time I crashed the Owens family summer solstice and left the portal open? Pop culture witches with them pointed hats. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. And then I just linked it. I was like, listen to our latest fan fiction, people.
I love it.
All right. So yeah, Egypt, guys. So Western alchemy traces its origins to ancient and Hellenistic Egypt, particularly in Alexandria, which was a center of alchemical knowledge during the Greek and Roman periods. The practice of alchemy in the Roman Empire combined Egyptian goldsmithing, Greek philosophy, and various religious traditions. Zosimos of Panopolis, an early alchemical author, circa 300 AD, is key in understanding early alchemical texts, many of which are pseudepigraphic. Zosimos attributed the origins of alchemy to Egyptian metallurgical and ceremonial practices, though he criticized the involvement of Egyptian priests who he believed learned the art from demons in exchange for sacrifices. Just sidebar, this was a Wikipedia page that went on for days. I just put, ChatGPT, can you please summarize this for me, please? So this is just literally a nugget of what the entire section was about. So if you guys want more like in-depth information, we'll link the entire wiki page for this in our show notes.
Hell yeah.
Zosimos of Panopolis claimed that alchemy originated in Pharaonic Egypt and was practiced by the priestly class, though there is little evidence for this. Alchemical writers often used figures from Greek, Roman, and Egyptian mythology, like Isis, Osiris, and Jason, like Jason and the Argonauts, is that what you're talking about? To symbolize and explain alchemical transmutation. The most central figure in alchemy's mythology is Hermes Trismegistus, a fusion of the gods Thoth and Hermes. His teachings, particularly the 42 books of Hermes, form the foundation of Western alchemical philosophy, known as the Hermetic philosophy, and were compiled in the early centuries of the Common Era. I think there's even like a Hermetic tarot deck and like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you say it. Is it Thoth or Thoth? Do you know?
I don't know.
There's also like a Thoth or Thoth tarot deck.
Yes. Wasn't Krista mentioning that?
I think maybe.
She was mentioning Thoth.
Yeah, maybe it is Thoth.
Yeah.
But apparently it's not user friendly. So if you're trying to
Practiced
if you're trying to learn the tarot, I would not buy it, because like a lot of first timers, they're like, oh, well, the Thoth is such a cool deck, and they buy it, and then like, I don't know why I'm not learning anything.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's very, I don't know if it's abstract, it's just a little advanced, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about, I've never worked with the deck, so I don't know, but that's what I've heard. So anyway, moving on to Asia, Chinese alchemists shared complex mathematical phenomena with Arab alchemists during the medieval period, including the magic square of three. There's the three again, right? Isn't that, okay, a square of three, normally when you think of square, you think of four, right? Because the four corners in a square. So that's weird. But both traditions had connections to natural elements and used distinct names for ingredients. Chinese alchemy focused more on medicine, seeking immortality through the grand elixir, while European alchemy aimed to transmute metals, though both were tied to spiritual goals. Ge Hong documented alchemical practices in Chinese medicine as early as 317 AD, emphasizing elixirs for spiritual protection. Over time, the focus on external alchemy in China shifted to Neidan, or internal alchemy, which focused on spiritual practices and nourishing the, quote, inner gods. Chinese alchemists also invented gunpowder while searching for an elixir of immortality. Alchemy reached medieval Europe through translations of Arabic texts, leading to an influx of alchemical knowledge. European alchemists, influenced by figures like Albertus Magnus and Roger Bacon, sought to reconcile alchemy with Christian theology, viewing it as a means to purify the soul. Alchemy in Europe gradually became accessible beyond scholarly circles, though it faced criticism and regulation due to fraudulent practitioners, like charlatans. So during the Renaissance, European alchemy revived through Hermetic and Platonic influences, leading to the development of medical, pharmaceutical, occult, and entrepreneurial branches. Marsilio Ficino's translations of the Corpus Hermeticum made key theories accessible, encouraging a focus on humanity as the vessel for transformation. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, which that's a name in, what is it, the Book of Magic or Rules of Magic? Alice mentions Agrippa a lot throughout those books.
Either way, I think we have notes started on Agrippa.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah, we can venture down that rabbit hole, because Agrippa, big name in the alchemy field, right?
He can Agrippa me any day.
Okay,
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa merged Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and alchemy, while Paracelsus shifted alchemy's aim from gold making to medicinal applications, emphasizing the body's mineral balance. John Dee explored alchemical ideas in Monas Hieroglyphica, linking it to universal understanding. Alchemists found entrepreneurial opportunities serving elites, but pseudo-alchemists also emerged, prompting legitimate practitioners to distance themselves from fraud. The terms chemia and alchemia were often interchangeable, with figures like Tycho Brahe and Isaac Newton contributing to both alchemy and science, illustrating the coexistence of Hermeticism and practical advancements. So I guess like mysticism and spirituality, but alongside of science, it sounds like. So the later modern period. The decline of European alchemy began with the rise of modern science, which favored rigorous experimentation over ancient wisdom. While alchemy thrived until the 18th century, reaching a peak during that time, by the mid-1700s, it became increasingly associated solely with the pursuit of gold, leading to perceptions of alchemists as frauds. So Robert Boyle helped establish the scientific method, emphasizing careful data collection in chemical investigations, which contributed to the emergence of modern chemistry in the 18th and 19th centuries. A clear distinction between alchemy and chemistry formed around 1720, with academic writers aiming to separate the, quote, new chemistry from the discredited practices of alchemy. In the early 19th century, an occult revival brought renewed interest in alchemy, viewed through a spiritual lens rather than a practical science. Figures like Mary Ann Atwood and Ethan Allen Hitchcock argued for this esoteric interpretation, claiming that alchemical texts concealed spiritual truths behind allegorical language. Atwood's ideas influenced later occult writers, while Hitchcock suggested that alchemists masked their spiritual teachings to evade persecution. In 1946, Louis Catteau published Message Retrouvé, blending philosophical and mystical elements with alchemy, influencing ongoing research in France and Belgium. So several women played significant roles in the early history of alchemy. Michael Meyer, Maier, names 4 notable female alchemists: Mary the Jewess, Cleopatra the Alchemist, Medera, and Tafnusha. Mary the Jewess, circa 200 AD, is credited with important advancements in alchemical equipment, including the invention of the water bath. And
Bonne Marie. Okay.
Bonne Marie. You know
That's
Bonne Marie?
cool. Yeah, we have one
Do
at
you?
the inn from Lucille Ball.
Oh.
And it's this big silver piece of kitchenware, basically. And you can put hot water or cold ice water in it to keep, and it has like little plates that sit on top. So it keeps the food hot or the champagne cold. Or if you're having like shrimp, it keeps it cold. It's called a water bath of Bonne Marie.
Yeah. Wait, so what about Lucille Ball?
It was hers because my boss used to cater for her.
Shut
I
up.
know. Now I get to polish it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is
That's
cool.
neat.
I
Yeah.
love her.
All right. Mary the Jewess, I guess she invented the Bonne Marie and improvements to distillation apparatuses. However, women's names became less common in alchemical literature after the Greco-Roman period. I'm wondering if it was like an alewives type deal, like the women came up with it, but then the men like try to get rid of the women and take the credit for it.
No
type deal,
doubt. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. During the late Middle Ages and Renaissance, women gained access to alchemical texts. Caterina Sforza being a prominent figure. As an apothecary owner, she documented over 400 recipes in her manuscript Experimenti, covering topics like alchemy, cosmetics, and medicine, including recipes for talc and an elixir believed to cure ailments and rejuvenate. Other women interested in alchemy included Catherine de' Medici and Marie de' Medici, both queens of France, as well as Isabella d'Este, who made perfumes. However, the proliferation of anonymous works makes it difficult to accurately identify female authors in alchemical literature. The 16th century saw a growing trend of secrets, experiments yielding desired outcomes, with Les Secreti della Signora Isabella Cortese being the only book attributed to a woman, although it is suspected to have been authored by a man.
Oh, scandal.
Yeah. In the 19th century, Marianne Atwood's A Suggestive Inquiry into the Hermetic Mystery marked a resurgence of women's involvement in alchemy during the occult revival. And we just recently talked about, what was it, the Aqua Tofana, those women that made the perfumes, but
just thinking that all these names sound so familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Modern esoteric and neo-hermetic practitioners see alchemy as a spiritual journey where the transmutation of lead into gold symbolizes personal transformation and perfection. Early alchemists like Zosimos of Panopolis, circa 300 AD, emphasized this spiritual quest as a form of religious regeneration. This perspective interprets alchemical processes as metaphors for spiritual evolution. The Philosopher's Stone is viewed as the mystical key to transforming one's flawed state into a perfect, everlasting one. In his 1766 Alchemical Catechism, Theodore Henry de Tschudi argued that when alchemists refer to gold and silver, they mean a vital spiritual essence rather than ordinary metals. Alchemical symbolism plays a significant role in analytical psychology, notably revived by Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung. Initially perplexed by alchemy, Jung found a connection between alchemical imagery and the symbolic content in his patient's dreams after studying The Secret of the Golden Flower, a Chinese text. He identified these images, particularly those of gold and the lapis, like I guess lapis lazuli, as expressions of the individuation process, the journey towards self-realization. Alongside his collaborator Marie-Louise von Franz, Jung collected alchemical texts and created a lexicon of key phrases. His writings illuminated the symbolic process of achieving wholeness, where opposites unite in a, quote, divine marriage, also called Heros Gamos. Jung's work, particularly in Mysterium Conjunctionis, has influenced psychology and contemporary culture, highlighting the significance of dream symbols and archetypal forces in the psyche. And yeah, he's the one that kind of coined the term archetype. A lot of people who read the tarot, they use that kind of system to help them, to guide them through the tarot and to help them interpret the tarot, whether they want to use their dreams or, you know, the pictures on the cards, or it's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's so personal. It's different for everybody.
Exactly. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people who read the tarot are into that human psychology and trying to figure out how the brain works and like what makes us behave certain different ways, what are our triggers, you know. And it's a lot of shadow work, honestly. It's like if you want to go down that path, dig deep into that, you can pull out a lot of gunk. And that's part of the path of self-actualization, self-realization, right? It's like personal development. I noticed a lot of people used tarot as a tool for that personal development and kind of honing that self-awareness.
Oh yeah, your daily card pull when you're like, what do I need to focus on today?
Exactly.
It's a great tool.
Exactly. And what people don't realize is like, yeah, it's divination. Yeah, it's mysticism and the occult, and it's cool and it's mysterious, but it's basic human psychology is also, that's what it is, right? It's just understanding why we are the way that we are. And I think that's what's so fascinating about it, is because you're mixing the spiritual with the science. So they go hand in hand. They really do, right?
Yeah, love that.
So we're going to talk about a small list of notable alchemists who have made significant contributions to the field, blending mystical traditions with early chemistry. And this is just a quick, you know, short list of them. There's so many people that we could talk about, but these are just a few that, you know, wanted to mention. First, Nicholas Flamel. Nicholas Flamel was a legendary figure in alchemy, believed to have discovered the Philosopher's Stone and immortality, and most of his story is based on posthumous myth. So, like, I guess a lot of what he's known for didn't start making its round until after he was already
I don't
gone.
think he discovered immortality. Sorry. Like,
Well,
I
he
know
died.
it's death date there.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, he died, so clearly. But like, I feel like that's what they say about a lot of like the celebrities, like who are like in the Illuminati or like they're in the secret society. Maybe they have access to the elixir of life. If you've seen Death Becomes Her, that lady is selling this like snake oil or whatever the fuck is in that vial of that elixir of life, right? It makes them live forever.
But
And but do you notice at the end when they're at that big party, right? When they're trying to get Bruce Willis's character to Ernest Menville, they're trying to get him to drink the elixir. They're at a party of all celebrities, and if you notice, she says like that they fake their own deaths at some point when they want to check out, but really they're living forever.
wow. Yeah. Okay. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. How interesting.
So who knows? Maybe Nicholas Flamel is still living somewhere in a cave, and we just think he's fucking dead, but really he did find immortality. Who knows?
Sure. Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know if you've seen this video of Bieber's wife. What the fuck's her name? Haley Bieber.
Haley Bieber.
There's some kind of new drug. She's like, I'm just gonna. I don't think it's called NDA. That's something else, a non-disclosure or whatever. She's like, I'm gonna just keep taking NDA and be young forever. Like a lot of these people are doing whatever this treatment is, and I don't know what it is.
What about the one that you were telling me about that Sandra Bullock was doing? The
children's foreskin or penis or something.
Yeah, like a facial, right? Like foreskin facial. Is that what it is?
I love her. But girl, we gotta calm down with the
Yeah.
penis on the face.
Well, have you seen Shania Twain lately?
Yeah. Caitlin and I were just talking about this. We were like, you can do it.
Yeah.
You look great. Like Lindsay Lohan. Like, girl, you made a comeback. You look great. So happy for you. Pam Anderson, no makeup. You're so beautiful.
Yeah.
Killing it, girl.
Christina Aguilera, she just went back like 30 fucking years in age. Have you seen her lately?
There's something going on.
I know. And it ain't Ozempic. It's something else. Yeah. All right. So the next one on this list is this name again, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. And he was a German polymath and occult writer known for his 3 books of occult philosophy, which influenced alchemical thought and magic. And Alice writes a lot about Agrippa. So we're going to go down the rabbit hole with him at some point. Next on this list is Paracelsus, between 493 and 1541, and he was a Swiss physician and alchemist, considered the father of modern toxicology. He redefined alchemy to focus on medicine and healing rather than just the transformation of metals. Next we have George Agricola, between 494 and 1555, known for his writings on metallurgy. He applied alchemical methods to mining and mineralogy, influencing the development of chemistry. And then lastly on this list is Sir Isaac Newton between 1642 and 1727. And while better known as a physicist, Newton also studied alchemy extensively, seeking to understand the hidden forces of nature and the transmutation of substances. It doesn't say metal, it says substances, so who knows what substances he was working with, right? So these figures represent a range of alchemical traditions, from the mystical pursuit of enlightenment to the early foundations of modern science. So I just thought that was really interesting.
I think that's Alice did her research.
Oh,
Fucking
Yeah.
did the research.
Yeah, she went down the rabbit hole.
I love it. Let's transition a little more into talking about the Alchemy Tree of Life and the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. And y'all might have seen these. So the Alchemic Tree of Life and the Kabbalistic Tree of Life share structural similarities with their 10 nodes or sephirot arranged in hierarchical fashion, representing spiritual and material progression. However, the Alchemic Tree of Life emphasizes the process of transmutation and the evolution of matter, while the Kabbalistic Tree of Life focuses on the divine emanation and the spiritual journey. Both systems are symbolic associations with color, numbers, and celestial bodies, and more values to map out the intricate relationship between matter, spirit, and divinity. While alchemy is concerned with transforming base matter into higher forms of existence, including the creation of life, Kabbalah is focused on understanding and experiencing the divine flow into and through the material world, with the ultimate goal being reunion with the divine. So Justina's going to take us through this map of divinity.
Divinity. So I don't know how you would even explain this thing. This is wild. All right. So if you've ever seen like the High Priestess card of the tarot, right? If you're looking at a major arcana, the High Priestess is sitting in the middle and she's got the two columns on both sides of her, like one black and one light. Like she's in the middle, like it's a balance between light and dark energies. It's kind of what we're getting here. And then in the center, instead of a figure of the High Priestess, we have this, how many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. An octagon, I guess you could call this, right?
Okay.
It's got 8 points. Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, no. Maybe it's a what's 6? Hexagon?
I think so.
So there's basically like 3 at the top in a triangle form, 3 at the bottom in a triangle form coming up, then 1 point on each side, left and right, and then you have 1 in the center. I'm trying to explain this as best as I can, but really you're only gonna understand by looking at this, so we will link the photo to this in our show notes. So I'm just gonna go through this diagram. So the Tree of Life is a diagram used in rabbinical Judaism, in Kabbalah, and other mystical traditions derived from it. It is usually referred to as the Kabbalistic Tree of Life to distinguish it from the Tree of Life that appears alongside the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil in the Genesis creation narrative, and as well as the archetypal Tree of Life found in many cultures. Simo Parpola asserted that the concept of a Tree of Life with different spheres encompassing aspects of reality traces its origins back to the Neo-Assyrian Empire in the 9th century BCE. The Assyrians assigned moral values and specific numbers to the Mesopotamian deities, similar to those used in Kabbalah, and claims that the state tied these to sacred tree images as a model of the king, parallel to the idea of Adam Kadmon. However, J.H. Chages states that the Ilan should be regarded as primarily indebted to the Porphyrian tree and maps of the celestial spheres rather than to any speculative ancient sources, Assyrian or otherwise. Kabbalah's beginnings date to the Middle Ages, originating in the Bahir and the Zohar. Although the earliest extant Hebrew Kabbalistic manuscripts dating to the late 13th century contain diagrams, including one labeled Tree of Wisdom. The now iconic Tree of Life emerged during the 14th century. The iconic representation first appeared in print on the cover of the Latin translation of Gates of Light in the year 1516. Scholars have traced the origin of the art in the Portalucis cover of Johann Reuchlin. The tree of life usually consists of 10 or 11 nodes symbolizing different archetypes and 22 paths connecting those nodes. The nodes are often arranged into I should have just read this, into 3 columns to represent that they belong to a common category. So in Kabbalah, the nodes are called sifirot. They are usually represented as circles, and the paths are usually represented as the lines. The nodes usually represent encompassing aspects of existence, God, or the human psyche. The paths usually represent the relationship between the concepts ascribed to the spheres or a symbolic description of the requirements to go from one sphere to another. The columns are usually symbolized as pillars, and these usually represent different kinds of moral values, electric charges, or types of ceremonial magic. The Sephirot are the 10 spheres of the Tree of Life. Each Sephira, singular of Sephirot, represents a different aspect of the divine, as well as aspects of human consciousness and existence. And these are what they are from top to bottom. So starting at the very, very top, we have Kether, which is the crown, and then that goes to number 2, which is Hokmah. Oh, these are spelled differently on the diagram than they are below. So that's moving to the right, to the lighter path, the lighter pillar. So that's Hokmah, which is wisdom. Then we're gonna move to the left. This is Bina, and that means intelligence. And now number 4, we have Hesed, which is mercy. And then below that, we have Gevura, which is judgment. Then Tiferet, which is beauty. Then on to Netzah, lasting endurance. Then Had, which is majesty. Yasad, foundation of the world. And then lastly, we have Malkuth, which means kingdom. And 11th Sephira, dot, D-A'-apostrophe-A-T, appears in some diagrams of the tree halfway between Keter, which is node 1, and Tiferet, which is node 6. The diagram is also used in Christian Kabbalah, Hermetic Kabbalah, and Theosophy. The nodes are also associated with deities, angels, celestial bodies, moral values, single colors or combinations of them, and specific numbers. So a little bit on how to interpret the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. According to the Chabad source, the Tree of Life is to be interpreted in the following way. The tree represents a series of divine emanations of God's creation itself ex nihilo, the nature of revealed divinity, the human soul, and the spiritual path of ascent by man. In this way, Kabbalists developed the symbol into a full model of reality using the tree to depict a map of creation. The symbolic configuration is made of 10 spiritual principles, but 11 can be shown since Keter and Dat are interchangeable. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is equivalent to the 10 spheres seen from the last sphere of the diagram, Malkuth, and the original tree of life is equivalent to the 10 spheres seen from the middle sphere of the diagram, Tiferet. This is kind of confusing.
It's a lot of Hebrew. It's a lot of Hebrew.
Yeah. I feel like the only way to really understand this is if you're looking at a diagram while reading this, so then you can visually kind of see like what corresponds to what, you know?
Yes. Yeah, because they're all connected differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the Kabbalists believe the Tree of Life to be a diagrammatic representation of the process by which the universe came into being. On the Tree of Life, the beginning of the universe is placed in a space above the first sphere, named Keter or crown in English. It is not always pictured in reproductions of the Tree of Life, but is referred to universally as O or Ein Sof, which means endless light, I guess, in Hebrew. To Kabbalists, it symbolizes that point beyond which our comprehension of the origins of being cannot go. It is considered to be an infinite nothingness out of which the first, quote, thing, usually understood by Kabbalists to be something approximating, quote, energy, exploded to create a universe of multiple things. So basically the Big Bang Theory. It's like their own version of the Big Bang Theory, or the creation of, what do they call it in Christian mythology?
The creation. Yeah.
The creation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
I kind of like this because it's laid out for my little Virgo brain. I have a map.
Exactly. So Kabbalists also do not envision time and space as pre-existing and place them at the next 3 stages on the Tree of Life. First is Keter, which is thought of as the product of the contraction of Ein Sof into a singularity of infinite energy or limitless light. In the Kabbalah, it is the primordial energy out of which all things are created. The next stage is Chokmah, or wisdom in English. English, which is considered to be a stage at which the infinitely hot and contracted singularity expanded forth into space and time. It is often thought of as pure dynamic energy of an infinite intensity forever propelled forth at a speed faster than light. So that's Chokmah sounds like the Big Bang. Next comes Binah, Binah, for or means understanding in English, which is thought of as the primordial feminine energy, the supernal mother of the universe, which receives the energy of Chokmah, cooling and nourishing it into the multitudinous forms present through the whole cosmos. It is also seen as the beginning of time itself. Numbers are very important to Kabbalists, and the Hebrew letters of the alphabet also have numerical value. Each stage of the emanation of the universe on the tree of life is numbered meaningfully from 1, which is Keter, to 10, which is Malkuth. Each number is thought to express the nature of its sphere. The first 3 spheres, called the supernal spheres, are considered to be the primordial energies of the universe. The next stages of evolution on the tree of life are considered to exist beyond a space on the tree called the, quote, abyss between the supernals and other spheres, because their levels of being are so distinct from each other that they appear to exist in 2 totally different realities. So like a parallel universe, maybe?
Oh.
I don't know. The supernal spheres exist on a plane of divine energy. This is why another correspondence for Binah is the idea of suffering, because the supernal maternal energy gives birth to a world that is inherently excluded from that divine union. After Binah, the universe begins building the materials it will need to fulfill its evolution, and it creates new combinations of those materials until it is so dense that by the stage of Malkuth, which we remember is the 10th sphere, the initial pure limitless energy has solidified into the physical universe. I guess you can kind of look at this tree of life as the chakra system, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the top one, the Keter, is the crown, right? And the Malkuth being the root, just makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I wanted to show you my tree. That's why I've been looking. I don't know why I included it
Oh yeah.
on my
There you
snake
go.
page. I don't know, but I included it over the Ouroboros or the Oberos, which is
Yeah.
also like the life cycle, life, death, life. And the connecting, I guess, rods, the connecting lines between all of these circles also have individual names and numbers, at least on this one.
Okay.
More Hebrew that I'm not going to say, but yeah, they're also numbered. I don't have the translation for what they are though.
Okay. I'm wondering, is yours the Hermetic Kabbalah Tree of Life? Because we're going to get into that one next. And looking at what you're showing me right now in your Book of Shadows and the photo that's here under Hermetic Kabbalah, they kind of look more similar. Do you see that one?
The names are the same on this one, the Kethar and Had and Malkuth. They're all
Okay.
the same.
Same? Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know if the Hermetic Kabbalah one is
Yeah, I'm
same.
not sure if that one's different.
It looks like they're all the same names.
All right. So just to finish up on this
Yeah.
Kabbalistic tree of life. So since its energies are the basis of all creation, the tree of life can potentially be applied to any area of life, especially the inner world of man, from the subconscious all the way to what Kabbalists call the higher self. The tree of life speaks not only of the origins of the physical universe out of the unimaginable, but also of humanity's place in it. Since man is invested with a mind, consciousness in the Kabbalah is thought of as the fruit of the physical world through whom the original infinite energy can experience and express itself as a finite entity. After the energy of creation has condensed into matter, it is thought to reverse its course back up the tree until it is once again united with its true nature, Keter. Thus, the Kabbalist seeks to know himself and the universe as an expression of God, and to make the journey of return using the stages charted by the spheres until he has come to the realization that he sought. So I guess once he reaches back up to Keter, that's the higher sense of self, like you're ascending to the heavens, your spiritual self, right?
Because that's where you start from. You have all that knowledge and then you're birthed out and it's all gone and you have to live in this purgatory forever.
Yeah, then you do it all over again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. Why don't you take us through the Hermetic Kabbalah? Because I don't know if that's different.
I will try. Some of these nodes, the names are the same, but the meanings are a little different, and you might have to help me with some of the words. Yeah, in the Hermetic Kabbalah, the tree of life is a fundamental concept and symbol that represents the structure of the universe and the spiritual and metaphysical path to enlightenment. It is often depicted as a diagram composed of 10 interconnected spheres called Sephiroth and 22 connected paths, which together form a pattern resembling a tree. It's almost identical to what Justina was just describing. So the list of the Sephiroth with their usual translations in Hermetic Kabbalah is: number 1, the Kether is crown, Hakma is wisdom, Binna is understanding, Shesed mercy, Gebra severity, Tifereth beauty, Netzach victory, Had splendor, Yesod foundation, and Malkuth is kingdom. So some of them are a little different.
Yeah.
The 22 connected paths on the tree represent the connection between the Sephiroth. Each path is associated with a specific Hebrew letter, tarot card, and a range of meanings and correspondences. Hermetic Kabbalists see the cards of the tarot as keys to the tree of life. The 22 cards include 21 trumps plus the Fool, or zero card, are often called the major arcana or greater mysteries, and are seen as corresponding to the 22 Hebrew letters and the 22 paths of the tree. The ace to 10 in each suit correspond to the Sephiroth and the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, and the 16 court cards relate to the classical elements in the 4 worlds. While the Sephiroth describe the nature of divinity, the paths between them describe ways of knowing the divine. Paths of the flaming sword. So what is that? The path of the flaming sword refers to the flaming sword which God put to guard the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were cast out. It is the concept in Kabbalah which represents the order in which the 10 Sephiroth were created. The paths emanate from the Ein Sof, the boundless source of divinity, which begins at Kether, the crown, and ends at Malkuth, the kingdom, where the physical world manifests and symbolizes, quote, the logos which unify them.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you were on point with the tarot reference.
Yeah, because now that I think about it, when I did the tarot course, I had a tarot notebook, and we had homework and stuff to do. And I'm pretty sure one of the assignments was we had to draw one of those trees of life. Mine doesn't look as nice as yours in your grimoire.
Oh.
I just kind of just did the outlines of it and labeled everything. But she just wanted us to get an understanding of how the tree of life and the Kabbalah corresponds with the key concepts of the tarot. So
That is so cool.
yeah, I'm really out of practice. I don't remember really much any of it. I gotta dig out that tarot notebook and flip through it, because I'm sure there's some good nuggets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to scan some of those pages in and share them with you.
Yeah. So similarly, we have the alchemic tree of life, which also is comprised of the circles with words in them and paths connecting all of these circles somehow, but they have different words in them.
Yeah. So I was like, what? Okay. I was looking this up, the alchemic tree of life. I didn't realize that this was actually a diagram that was created by an artist on DeviantArt named the Particle Man.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think this was his own I don't know if this was his own interpretation.
Okay. So yeah, the little paths just look like they're doing different things than the other two images we were looking at.
Yes.
Okay, so let me read out what JetBT said about this, because it kind of summarized everything.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we've already gone over, as far as the Kabbalah and the nodes and what 1 through 10 mean and translate into. So the alchemic tree of life is a symbolic representation of the principles of alchemic belief, modeled after the Kabbalistic tree of life, but with distinct differences. The tree of life usually consists of 10 or 11 nodes symbolizing different archetypes and 22 paths connecting the nodes. The nodes are often arranged into 3 columns to represent that they belong to a common category, which we've gone over. So let's talk about the structure of the tree in his depiction. The tree is comprised of a series of interconnected circles.
In this one, this is the alchemic tree of life. This is not the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Right.
The Kabbalistic tree of life, that's all spirituality.
Okay.
This
okay,
is more scientific, and if you notice the little things, the words inside of these bubbles, these are more having to do with the elements.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's get there. Let me get you there. Let me put my seatbelt back on.
All right. Goodbye. Let's strap back in. Let's get back on this ride.
Yeah. These circles are arranged in a hierarchical manner, flowing from the top representing the most fundamental elements to the bottom representing the culmination of the alchemical process. So in this layout, the tree is symmetrical with balanced placement of the circles on either side, emphasizing the harmony and balance essential to alchemical philosophy. The design is hierarchical, illustrating a flow from the most fundamental substances at the top to the most complex and refined at the bottom. The layout visually represents the transformational journey in alchemy, moving from simplicity to complexity, from the base matter to the attainment of life. The alchemic tree of life illustrates the alchemical process of transmutation, beginning with the most fundamental substances and moving through various stages of refinement and combination to achieve the ultimate goal of alchemy, which is the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, or the attainment of prima materia. Alchemic Tree of Life is a map of the alchemic process, showing how the undifferentiated prima materia is transformed through suggestive stages of purification and combination into more complex and refined substances. The goal of this process is to achieve a harmonious balance of the elements and essences, ultimately resulting in the creation of life and the attainment of enlightenment or spiritual perfection.
Perfection.
I was watching you with your hair. The right side of the image provides a textual explanation detailing how each component is derived and how they relate to one another, emphasizing the fixed and volatile nature of different elements and essences. The illustration also includes a smaller diagram comparing the alchemic tree of life to the traditional tree of life, highlighting their structural similarities and philosophical differences. This alchemical diagram is a rich symbolic representation of the transformational journey in alchemy, blending mystical and philosophical elements to describe the process of achieving the highest state of matter and spiritual enlightenment. Right. Let's talk about the primary connections. Prima materia to sal celestis and nitrum celestis. Okay. This shows the initial split of the undifferentiated prime material into two fundamental elements representing the fixed sal celestis and the volatile nitrum celestis natures. Okay. So we have the fixed and the volatile. And let's then transition into the four elements. Okay. So this sal celestis and nitrum celestis to aqua, terra, ignis, and air. So water, earth, fire, and air.
Yeah.
I
You're
was fucking smart. Yes. Okay.
We would ace Hogwarts, I'm just saying.
We'd be schooling those kids.
We'd be slithering around because we're both Slytherin.
Right.
We're so ambitious.
Yeah. So water and earth.
Are your bagels done?
My husband is cooking. He always sets that shit off when he's cooking steak.
Setting that shit on fire.
I think
He's setting that shit on Ignis.
Ignis. You got the Ignis turned up.
Got the Ignis.
So water and earth derived from the sal celestis, indicating their fixed nature, while fire and air derive from the nitrum celestis, indicating their volatile nature. Additional connections between these elements, example between water and earth or fire and air, indicate possible interactions or transformations between these elements. Agua and terra to sal, I'm guessing salt, represents the combination of these two fixed elements to form one of the fundamental essences in alchemy. Salt. Okay. All right. Water and earth, salt. Ignis and aris to sulfur. This indicates the combination of these two volatile elements to form sulfur. Agua, ignis, terra, and aris to hydrogyrum, mercury.
Oh, yeah, hydrogyrum. I never heard it called that before, but
me either. Demonstrates the combination of both fixed and volatile natures to create the third essential essence, mercury. Do you remember a game you could put, I think, on your phone? Are you nodding because you know where I'm going?
I don't know where you're going with this.
I think it was called Alchemy. And you only started off with like a few little things and you would just drag and drop them into each other to make these bigger things. And these bigger things you could then split apart and make all these other like little things. I don't remember. It was
that like witchcraft Tetris? What?
Yeah.
I like that.
Exactly.
That sounds cool as fuck.
Yeah. Next, there are the three kingdoms. So sal, which is salt. We have mercury and sulfur to mineralia, vegetabilia, and animalia. Okay, so animal, vegetable, and mineral, right? Okay, so mineral associated with the most fixed substances is derived directly from salt. Vegetable, representing the intermediate state, is formed by mercury. And animal, representing the most volatile and complex life forms, is associated with sulfur. Each kingdom represents different states of matter and life forms, with mineral being the most fixed and animal the most volatile. Interesting.
Yeah.
At the bottom of this tree is vita, life. So mineral, vegetable, and animal to life. The final convergence shows how all kingdoms of matter come together to form vita, representing the culmination of the alchemical process and the attainment of the philosopher's stone or ultimate enlightenment. The connecting lines between the circles of the alchemic tree of life represent the relationships and interactions between the different elements, essences, and stages of matter in the alchemical process. So interconnections among the elements and essences. These lines indicate the possible transformations or interactions among the different states of matter. For example, lines connecting ignis and airs, so fire and air, with mercury and sulfur suggest possible paths of transformation in an alchemical process. Connections among the kingdoms, these lines might represent the interdependence and interaction between different forms of life and matter in the alchemical worldview. The lines between the circles signify the dynamic and interconnected nature of the alchemical process, illustrating how different elements, essences, and forms of matter interact, transform, and ultimately converge to create life. This intricate web of connection highlights the complexity and holistic nature of alchemical philosophy, where every element and essence is a part of a larger interconnected system, just like us.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking when you were saying the volatile? You kept saying volatile, volatile. Remember when we were doing the Baneful Herb episode and we were looking at the Franny and Jet's apothecary cabinet and we're like, what are those?
Yes.
Volatile liquids, ether and fucking chloroform? Like,
Yeah,
do you think the aunts have already like achieved alchemy? Do you think they already have access to the Philosopher's Stone? They have not aged. Who knows how long they've been on this fucking earth? They've been wearing the same Victorian stuff since who knows when.
Yes, I 100%. Well, they've still got a lot of growing to do, but I feel like they've tapped into that fountain of youth.
Right. And also, I mean, they have a resurrection spell. They
What
know
if they have died and they've been resurrecting each other over and over?
they're taking the same potion that fucking what's her name? Madeline. What's her name from Death Becomes Her? Madeline Ashton. Madeline Ashton. She's taking the same fucking potion.
Ashton.
She's taking the same potion. They got the hookup. They know where to get that shit.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Don't put it past them. So I'm thinking, yeah, dude, we can't record past like
It gets so doofy.
we're so loopy right now. I'm so fucking tired.
We're so close.
I know. We're gonna move on to some sacred tree meanings. We're gonna go back to the oak tree because I think we've confused you guys enough with the tree of life talk.
Make sure you have your notepads open for that last segment. Rewind, get a photo in front of you.
Yeah, go to our hero page and get the photos that we're talking about so you can follow along. Because I'm sure just listening to us is a shit show. Anyway, sacred tree profile. We're going to talk about oak trees, going back to the oaks, talking about their medicine, the magic, the mythology, and their meanings. A lot of alliteration there. This article is by Dana O'Driscoll from thedruidsgarden.com. And what did we learn that druid meant, guys?
Oak.
Oh, holy oak tree. It's time to go to sleep.
I know.
It's past Christina's bedtime and she's still making bagels. All right, so in North America alone, over 56 species of oaks make their home. Where Dana says where I live, we have about 20 different species of oak. Although certainly a few oak species dominate. The chestnut oak, the white oak, the northern red oak, which is what we said we thought was, chilling in Central Park, swamp oak, and black oak. In other parts of the US and Canada, different oaks may be present or dominant. The good news is pretty much wherever you go that is not a desert here, you can find oaks. And this is great news for druids, as the oak tree has been a primary symbol of druidry since the time of the ancients. One dominant, majestic oak in the eastern seaboard is the white oak, the Quercus alba. The white oak is the most dominant species in North America. White oaks can grow up to 100 feet high with a 5-foot diameter trunk. One of the few places you see large oaks are in old-growth forests, such as Cook's Forest in western PA, and black oaks, Quercus Ooh, I like that name. Quercus velutina are much smaller trees, getting up to 80 feet high with smaller 3-foot trunks. All oaks have a very strong hardwood with a close grain. Oak in past times was used for any situations where strength and durability were required, like old barns, oak barrels, railroad ties, posts, ships, hardwood floors, and furniture, to name a few. And what Christina was saying earlier, building the ships, right? Back in the day?
Building them ships, gotta be sturdy.
Exactly. Do you think the friendship in Salem is made of oak?
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it is.
We have to. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, we gotta do our research on that ship. So like most other hardwood nut trees, like hickory, walnut, and butternut, oaks are relatively slow growing and long lived. Some white oaks can live 600 years or more, and oaks are considered a, quote, climax species, meaning that once mature oaks are present, the forest is considered mature and no additional ecological succession will take place. Oaks are a keystone species in many forests on the East Coast and in the Appalachian Mountains. The oaks provide understory, food, and habitat for many other species and drive the overall shape of the forest. A typical mixed oak forest may also include hickory, white ash, tulip, poplar, beech, sugar maple, or black cherry, with an understory of serviceberry, spice bush, or witch hazel.
I love that.
The spice bush.
Love it.
I'm just gonna refer to my lady bits from now on as
Spice bush.
the spice
Are
bush.
you ready for Spice Bush night?
While playing what's that song by the Spice Girls? Viva. If you're having a good time, shake it to the left.
It's a
know that
good
you're being fine.
Nice.
Good song. Or witch hazel. This is in contrast to the other typical forest type, which here would be the birch, beech, hemlock forest with an understory of witch hazel. Were we talking about witch hazel at one point? It's good for like kitty acne, right? Under their
Oh, so it must have been black cats.
yeah, it must have been the cat episode.
Black cats.
Yeah. So this author says, of course, I am writing here of the typical types of forests found in the Allegheny Mountains. Your own observations of your local ecosystem will also be helpful to determine how oak functions where you live. So honey mushrooms, she says, known around here as popinkies.
Cute.
Have you seen these before?
Popinkies, no.
Popinkies can be found on the roots of oaks infected with them. Okay, so they're not so cute. They're actually bad maybe for the oak trees, right?
Uh-oh.
The infection that produces the honey mushrooms in Armorelia root rot, it can be characterized by, as he writes in Field and Forest, blackish, fibrous, rootish strands extending up the tree beneath the bark. Unfortunately, honey mushrooms, while delicious, they kill oak trees. The cycle of life can be a fierce one, and she says, I've seen honey mushrooms take out ancient oaks, turning them into soil once again, and have watched young acorns sprout in the remains of their ancestors.
I'm trying to look up what the friendship was made out of, and it's a lot of laminated wood and epoxy, apparently. But they did mention Douglas fir and oak. So
okay.
yes,
All
it
right.
was.
Culmination of different.
Yes, they also mentioned the fame, also made of oak. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, I think now that you mention it, yeah, I think the Friendship is a newer vessel.
Okay.
I don't think it's as old as the Grand Turk, which that was what?
Derby.
Yeah, Elias Haskett Derby. Yeah.
What's his full name? Elias
Elias Haskett Derby.
Haskett. Cool name.
Yeah. Haskett. Yeah. All right.
What's this next little bit about acorns here? This is acorns and acorn eating cultures. The world looks different when you eat acorns, according to Samuel Thayer from Nature's Garden. Most oaks, like other hardwoods, need to be between 30 to 40 years old before they begin producing acorns, and it takes up to 60 years for them to yield a full crop of nuts. Oaks flower in the spring, and the timing and severity of frosts during the season can significantly impact the acorn harvest, according to Samuel Thayer in Nature's Garden. Oaks typically produce a strong acorn cap every 2 to 3 years. This pattern is an ecological adaptation that helps regulate populations of squirrels and other acorn-eating rodents. Smaller acorn crops in consecutive years keep animal populations low, while a large crop in the third year ensures the continuation of the oak species. Additionally, the smaller crops encourage animals to, quote, hoard the acorns by burying them, leading to the growth of new oaks when some are forgotten. All acorns are edible, but they require proper preparation to remove the tannic acid that make them bitter. Different oak species produce varying sizes of acorns. Locally, their favorite is the chestnut oak and the white oak. both which yield large, flavorful nuts. These acorns are delicious when roasted. The process of leaching tannic acids from acorns using water extraction or boiling transforms them into full nuts and flour. For detailed guidance on how to harvest, leach, and prepare acorns, they suggest Samuel Thayer's Nature's Garden. Another valuable resource is Solin's Ocean Acorns and Eat 'em. Additionally, Yule Gibbons provides several excellent acorn-based recipes in stalking the wild asparagus, including candied acorns, acorn grits, acorn meal, and acorn bread and cakes. Historically, Native Americans relied on the acorn as a significant food source. They used them to make acorn meal and flatbread, which were dietary staples for many tribes, some even referred to as acorn-eating tribes. Acorns were not only a food source. Native Americans also utilized the inner oak bark, which contained up to 11% tannins, as an astringent for various medicinal purposes. Thayer suggests that the misconception of acorns being poisonous may stem from the exploitation and conquest of native peoples in North America, where the value of acorns as a food source was disregarded by European settlers. Returning to the use of acorns today can help us reconnect with both the oak and cultural practices of the ancestors who lived in harmony with the land. I had heard that acorns are poisonous because Diggity likes to eat them. He'll just eat them off the ground. I'm like, stop!
Really?
You're gonna give yourself a bellyache.
How
But
does
it's
he
fine.
eat them? I didn't know. Like, I thought that they were like so hard shell. Like, I wouldn't think anybody would be able to chew through that.
He'll eat them.
Really?
He eats, what were those things? The cicadas. He liked the cicada carcasses. Oh,
Oh,
man.
he likes a little crunch.
He likes a little crunch.
Okay.
In Druidic tradition, the word druid is commonly translated as oak knower, or oak seer, reflecting the deep knowledge Druids held of oak trees, which are considered a keystone species in the natural landscape. Oaks were seen as sacred, both for their physical and metaphysical qualities. In Druid tradition, the oak symbolizes strength, knowledge, and wisdom, and to call oneself a Druid is to embrace these qualities in life. Although we have limited surviving knowledge about ancient Druidic rituals, Pliny the Elder famously described them as magicians who considered the mistletoe growing on oaks to be especially sacred. It's not. It's a leech. It's not good for the tree.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's a parasite plant.
Oh, shit.
If you have a tree that has like a little bit of mistletoe on it, you can cut it off. But if it has been established and you try to cut it off, it'll kill the tree. So you might as well just leave it.
No.
Yeah, it's a parasite.
Hmm.
According to Pliny, mistletoe was gathered with great ceremony, usually on the 6th day of the moon, and involved the use of a golden sickle to cut the mistletoe, followed by a sacrificial ritual with 2 white bulls. Mistletoe growing on oak was believed to cure poisons and promote fertility in animals. The Romans, after conquering the Druids, cut down the sacred oak groves, a devastating blow to the Druidic tradition. However, when you encounter an ancient oak today, you can still sense the majesty and presence that those sacred groves must have embodied. Ooh,
Nobody told Pliny the Elder that shit wasn't sacred. It was a parasite.
it was a parasite, Pliny. Sorry, boy.
Yeah. No good.
No
All right.
bueno.
So, in the Encyclopedia of Natural Magic, John Michael Greer notes that oak is a tree of power and you can use it to direct and channel high levels of energy, particularly earth magic or weather magic. He suggests that the oak is the, quote, most powerful of trees in Northern European tree magic. In the American hoodoo tradition, Kat Ronwood describes in Hoodoo Herb and Root Magic that oak, especially Quercus alba, can be brewed into a tea and then added to a bath to remove jinxes. Usually, a root worker will also rub the client vigorously downward and pray as part of this removal. She also notes that the oak and mistletoe are burned together to smoke jinxed people or to remove unsettled spirits or ghosts from a house or place of business. This author says, I wonder if this oak and mistletoe combination ties back to the ancient Druids. Most certainly. She also notes that oak galls increase the power of any herbal blend for any magical purpose, and they can be carried or brewed into a tea for bathing to increase the potency of other workings. So real quick, I just like hearing that oak and mistletoe are burned together, and what you're telling me, I never even knew that mistletoe growed on oak trees, but I'm wondering if it's like a symbol, like if the Druids used that. Is that why often the Oak King and the Holly King are like fighting one another in their constant battle, like the solstices?
I don't know. Are holly and mistletoe the same thing?
Oh, wait. No, but
Okay.
that's what I was thinking of because they look similar, don't they? Holly and mistletoe?
Yeah, those they have the red berries. They have red
Yeah,
berries, right?
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're driving around this winter when all the trees are bare and you see like little clusters in the
Yeah.
trees growing, that's mistletoe. Go get you some.
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea that it grows on oak trees.
Mhm.
Okay. I was today years old when I Culpeper. We've heard that name before on this podcast, right? Culpeper's herbal notes that the oak is governed by Jupiter and that the oak is known to help resist the poison of both, quote, venomous creatures and those of herbs and plants. Finally, in alchemical circles, an article by Jean
Mhm.
Dubuis,
Dua.
Dubois. Jean Dubois titled the preparation of a powerful spagyric elixir without a laboratory also offers some additional insight on the oak. And they added a link to one version of that. Dubois essentially making a vitalizing spagyric tincture of acorn. For those not familiar with spagyrics are plant alchemy and allow you to make powerful, energetic plant medicine made in line with the alignment of the planets using specific techniques. I've never heard of that before, but that sounds fascinating as fuck.
So cool. Yes, agreed.
This oak elixir is vitalizing, carrying the energies of life. Primarily, oak is used as an astringent to help tone and firm up lax or leaky tissue. Of the astringents available in North America, it is one of the most potent. This author says, I was taught by herbalist Jim McDonald to harvest the inner bark of oaks for this purpose, specifically the oak's cambium. This we dried and made into a tea/toner or into a tincture for internal use. Matthew Wood, in his Earthwise Herbal Old World Plants, I guess it's a book, likewise shares that oak's astringency is present in any oak tree. He mentions specifically the usefulness of oak for gum disease, loose gums, varicose veins, and other such lax/goopy conditions in the body. He also,
Goopy.
yeah,
They also use leaky tissue earlier. It's fucking
oh,
funny.
so gross. He also notes that oak can be used mentally just like it is physically. He writes that oak, when used as a flower essence, quote, is the great remedy when the integrity of mind or body has been broken down by long, arduous suffering or usage. Persons who struggle against adversity never give up and never succeed. Oak helps a person choose the battles they can win, end quote.
So, in American Indian fairy tales, Margaret Compton shares a tale where the prince of the hares, a trickster, has his feet burned by the sun and embarks on a journey. Eventually, he reaches the edge of the wood where a towering cliff of trees stands. He asks the trees what they are good for. The ash, birch, and oak respond. The oak says, I shelter the great warriors. I mark the spot for their councils. From my boughs are made of the swift arrows that bring food to the hunter and carry death to his enemies. In a modern article, Dennis Martinez, a Native American elder of both Odham and Gano heritage, discusses the importance of oaks among the U.S. West Coast. He explains that both red oak and white oak are vital to the native peoples of California, who view the oak as the quote tree of life because of its dual benefits as a source of food and medicine. Many acorn eating cultures thrived in California well into the 19th century. One of this author's favorite Seneca legends highlights the mighty oak, which stands alongside the tribe of conifers, such as white pine and hemlock, to withstand the winter and usher in spring. This legend not only illustrates the oak's strength during the harsh winter months, when many other deciduous trees shed their leaves and sleep, but also emphasizes its connection to longevity and power. In a Sioux legend, The Man in the Oak, a young woman is taken in by a chief's family. She falls in love with the chief's son, but since she is now considered family, their relationship is forbidden. The young woman sneaks into the son's tent for several nights, and while attempting to see her face, he accidentally burns her. Overcome with grief, the man retreats to an oak tree and stays there from day into night. A small oak tree grows up through him, pinning him in place. Okay, that took a turn.
Wow.
The woman disappears, and the oak is revealed to be a curse. A thunder god eventually appears and frees the man from the curse, causing the oak tree to crumble.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, it got dark.
Yeah. So another incredible consistent image of the oak seems this is persistent in different kinds of literature, mythology, herbal, and magical traditions in both North America and Europe. So here are some of the core meanings of the oak in these places. Of course, strength. The oak is obviously a sign of strength, both strength of its branches, wood, and the strength of quality, as in the medicine and the magic of the tree. All cultures have revered the oak and sought such strengthening qualities, and that strength can be seen through the lore, wisdom, and knowledge. And, tied to the ancient term for druid as oak knower, oak has long been associated with knowledge and wisdom. We can see this also in the Native American lore, where oak, quote, makes space for councils. Vitality in life, the most ancient druid ritual we have, as well as new work by druids and others, suggests oak's vitalizing qualities. Oak can heal poison, strengthen the sick, and certainly bring vitality and energy through the blessing of acorn as a tree of life. And lastly, thunder and weather. As we can see from both the Indo-European traditions, oak is also tied to weather and thunder and the thunder deities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Gaelic tree alphabet. I think we might have briefly mentioned this on the leaf magic episode, maybe?
Yes, ma'am.
So the Ogham alphabet is sometimes called the Gaelic tree alphabet or the Celtic tree alphabet, as each letter is assigned a tree or plant name. And perhaps this is because each of its characters or trees is made out of a vertical reference line known as a flesk or a fleishk. It's that looks a little like a stem or trunk with one or more slashes or twigs protruding from it. Whilst the Ogham alphabet has 20 letters and 20 trees associated with it, the Gaelic alphabet has 18 letters and 18 trees. Ogham was predominantly used to write the early Irish language, and from the 6th century was used in the Gaelic kingdom of Dalirada, covering what is now Argyll, West Lochaber,
Lochaber? Like the Loch Ness Monster?
Lochaber.
Lochaber.
I told you.
I know.
It's late. It's getting too late. Now we're getting loopy. West Lochaber, like the Loch Ness Monster from Boston. West Lochaber and the Inner Hebrides, as well as the northern tip of Ireland. Darach means oak in Scots Gaelic, so Andarach means the oak. However, there are other Gaelic words to describe an oak, such as dair or dur, which comes from the more ancient Ogham alphabet. So we're going to talk about the dair letter in the alphabet. So D is for dair or dur, D-U-I-R, pronounced dar, and is associated with, with oak. There's so many rules! It's spelled like this, but it looks like this, but it sounds like this. Fuck my life. What? I'm crying. Darach means oak in Scots Gaelic. So on Darach, I read that part already. Did I read that already?
Maybe.
Anyway, in Celtic mythology and lore, the oak is associated with strength, resilience, and self-confidence, and is a great tree for enhancing inner strength, especially when you have experienced a great loss in life. It is said that the oak tree helps build strength, resilience, and self-confidence, and lends power so you might rebuild your life and move forward. For this reason, we consider the name Andarach. It's a quite auspicious name for our social enterprise. Oak has been valued for its strength and durability and was commonly used in construction of homes, and the bark has historically been used in the tanning industry.
Like to tan hides of animals.
Okay. I just pictured like Snooki in a tanning bed. I'm like,
with oak. It's an oak spa.
Oh my god. I'm delirious. Saint Columba was said to have had a fondness and respect for oak trees and to have been reluctant to fell them, like I guess chop them down, although his early chapel on Iona was constructed of oak from a nearby Mull oak woods. A well-known Celtic symbol is the Dara Celtic knot, usually featuring an interwoven design that represents the root system of an ancient oak. Like other Celtic knots, the Dara knot is made up of intertwined lines with no beginning or end, who lived in Gaul during the 1st century CE. He writes that the Druids performed all their religious rites in oak groves, where they gathered mistletoe from the trees with golden sticks. Strabo also describes 3 Galatian tribes, Celts living in Asia Minor, as holding their councils at a place called Drunameton, the oak grove sanctuary. The 2nd century Maximus of Tyre describes describes the Celts as worshipping Zeus, probably returning to the Romano-Celtic god of thunder, Tyrannus, as a tall oak tree. Elsewhere, we learn that the Druids of Gaul ate acorns as a way of divining the future. Another Roman writer referred to them as dryads, whom he defined as those who delight in the oaks. Dude, maybe Diggity's just like divining the future, and you're like, stop eating them oaks, and he's just over here.
Stop dragging your ass on the ground.
So we can never know for sure whether the Druids of the British Isles and Ireland practiced their religion in oak groves like their continental cousins, but it seems likely. We know that the insular Celts worshipped in groves or nematon, and the evidence from Ireland in particular makes it likely that these were oaks. Ireland was covered with oak trees, whose presence still echoes down the centuries in place names such as Derry, Derrylannon, Derrybon, Derrycagan, and of course Londonderry, once Derry Calgach, the oak wood of a fierce warrior of that name. Many early Christian churches were situated in oak groves, probably because they were once pagan places of worship. Kildare, where St. Brigid founded her abbey, derives from Kildara, the Church of the Oak. Legend says she loved and blessed a great oak and held it so sacred that no one dare harm a leaf of it. Under its shade, she built her cell. This ties in neatly with the pre-Christian tradition, as the pagan goddess Brigid was daughter to the sun god Dagda. We just talked about Dagda's cauldron, right? To whom the oak was sacred. Saint Columcille, also known as Columba, whom many believe to have been a druid before he embraced the new faith, likewise founded churches in an oak grove at Derry, the monastery at Durrow, and a monastery at Kells, where he lived under an oak tree. According to the Irish life of Saint Columcille, a man took some of the bark of his tree to tan his shoes and contracted leprosy as a consequence. Oh, yikes. When he was founding the church at Derry, St. Columcille burned down the town and the king's fort in order to eradicate the works or worldly men and sanctify the site for his church. But the fire blazed out of control, and he had to pronounce an invocation to save the grove of trees. He loved these trees so much that he built his oratory facing north, south, instead of by the usual Christian orientation of east-west, so none would be disturbed. He ordered his successors not to touch any tree that might fall, but to let it lie for 9 days, the sacred Celtic number, before cutting it up and distributing the wood among the poor. When later in life he lived at the abbey he founded on the Isle of Iona in Scotland, he declared that although he feared death and hell, the sound of an axe in Derry frightened him more. That's like me. I got PTSD from cutting down my fucking childhood tree. I'm still pissed about that. Early literature gives more evidence of the importance of the oak to pagan Celts. A great oak was one of the 5 sacred trees brought to Ireland by the strange being called, Jesus Christ, Trefungid Trefungid Treachner, who appeared suddenly at Tara on the day Christ was crucified, an emissary from the other world. He bore a branch on which were acorns, apples, nuts, and berries, which he shook onto the ground. These wondrous fruits were planted into 5 different parts of Ireland, and from them grew 5 great trees that oversaw each province until they were blown down by the disapproving winds of the church in the 7th century. Among these was the great oak of Mugna, which stood in southern Kildare. This, quote, bile, or sacred tree, was celebrated in the Edinburgh Disencas. As far as healing powers go, the oak held its place of honor in the British landscape long after its veneration by the early Celts. John Evelyn told how one great oak was held in such high esteem that if a bastard was born within its ample shade, neither mother nor child would incur the usual heavy censure of the church or magistrate. Country people frequented the oak for its curative powers, which in some places was considered so great that healing could occur simply by walking around the tree and wishing the ailment to be carried off by the first bird alighting on its branches. In Cornwall, a nail driven into an oak cured toothache, while in Wales, rubbing the oak with the palm of your left hand on Midsummer's Day kept you healthy all year. It gave a special virtue to other plants that grew upon its trunk or branches, such as the mistletoe or polypody fern. The herbalist Gerard said, "That which groweth on the bodies of the old oaks is preferred before the rest. Instead of this, most do use that which is found under the oaks." End quote. As we noted in the above, the oak is especially the tree of thunder gods in other northern cultures, and this tradition holds true in Britain also. In Anglo-Saxon times, times, Thor was known as Thunar, and groves of oak trees were dedicated to him in the south and the east of England, the village of Thundersley in Essex originally being one. Like the ash, it is said to court the lightning flash. Lightning is popularly supposed to strike the oak more than any other tree. Such trees often survived the blow and flourished remarkably well, henceforth being known as lightning oaks. People often took pieces of these trees to put on their houses for good luck. In shamanistic cultures, a person who survived being struck by lightning often became a shaman, for the lightning bolt is seen worldwide as a sudden spiritual illumination that rends the darkness with a terrifying and irrevocable transforming force. So yeah, I thought it was important to include the healing power bit about the oak, because we are talking about oak tree, the tree in Samhain, right? The alchemy tree. And also in correlation with alchemy, which many believe the elixir of life, many cultures do believe that it is found through the sap of a tree.
Yeah, totally right. The
So,
names given to these trees are freaking awesome. They're
yeah.
so badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit about folklore. Folklorist Ruth L. Tongue tells the Somerset folktale of an oak that helps a girl escape a cruel king by sending a bough crashing onto his head. The king's men come to fell the tree, but meet with a sorry fate. Oh, they rode in the wood where the oaken tree stood, to cut down the tree, the oaken tree. Then the tree gave a groan and summoned his own, for the trees closed about, and they never got out of the wood, the wonderful wood.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty. In another tale from the same source, The Vixen and the Oakman, the oak tree spirits hide a pursued vixen from hunters and hounds, for, quote, they guard all forest beasts. When the pursuers are gone, the oakmen invite the vixen to wipe your sore paws in our oak tree rain pool, which makes her pads heal and torn fur grow again. In death, too, the powerful presence of the oak as a living being could be felt. John Aubrey, writing in the 17th century, reports, when an oak is falling, before it falls, it gives a kind of shrieks or groans that may be heard a mile off, as if it were the genus of the oak lamenting. A famous mistletoe-bearing oak in Derbyshire had the reputation of being semi-human as late as the 19th century. Its branches were severed, it screamed and bled, and spoke with the voice of prophetic doom. Aubrey also tells of an oak whose mistletoe was cut and sold to some London apothecaries, all of whom met with horrible misfortunes thereafter. So maybe it's bad luck to cut off the mistletoe then.
I would
Leave it. Yeah. One fell lame shortly thereafter, soon after each of the others lost an eye. And he that felled the tree, who cut it down, though warned of these misfortunes of the other men, notwithstanding, adventured to do it, and shortly afterward broke his leg, as if the Hamadryads had resolved to take an ample revenge for the injury done to their venerable and sacred oak. The avenging power of the oak was famous particularly in Somerset, where until recently the oak was regarded with much respect as the tree of formidable power. It was well known that oaks resented being cut down, so people studiously avoided going near a coppice which sprang from the stumps of the felled trees. Ruth Tongue writes in that 1945 her chauffeur refused to drive past a grove that had been felled in the Second World War. A local story also told of the Carming family that came to grief because of disregarding the power of the oak. Carmer and his oldest son were greedy and cut down oaks in a nearby coppice, although they had plenty of wood of their own. The story continues. Trees didn't say nothing, which was bad. If they do talk a bit, you do get a warning. But if they're dead still, there's summit bad a brewing, and so it was. But danged if girt oak didn't drop a limb on can and timber and farmer and eldest son, killed they two stark dead outright, but when the youngest came to rescue, the dead tree rustled fit to deafen he. The youngest son was spared because he was always so respectful to the trees, being sure to ask the great oak by the gate if he might go past when he entered the forest, and after he inherited the farm, trees never followed nor closed bout nor dropped branches. These days, road protesters fight desperately to save these venerable old ones from bulldozers and other weapons of the war against the living earth. And I have fantasy that just in C.S. Lewis's second Narnia chronicle, Prince Caspian, one day the trees themselves will rise up and march like a summer storm to put an end to those who would replace their beauty and grandeur with concrete and tarmac, in which case oak will no doubt be the formidable general leading the onslaught.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's dope. Cool writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. C.S. Lewis also wrote this book called The Screw Tape Letters that you might like. He's
Yeah.
supposed to be like a Christian writer, of course, but this book was really cool. It was from the point of view of demons, like an uncle demon and his nephew demon. And nephew demon is, your pair. I guess demons are paired with humans, and
Okay.
he's trying to make human, go away from God. And he's always going back to, they're writing back and forth, I think, he and his uncle. And
Yeah.
like Uncle Demon is trying to tell him how to do these things. It's really
Interesting.
cool. It's a short book.
That is,
But
yeah.
speaking of books, we're gonna do some pop culture.
Okay.
There's my segue. She
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it?
Oh, good segue. I like that.
Yeah.
But speaking of books and these trees, I read a book in high school called The Ancient One. Have you ever heard that book?
No.
By T.A. Barron.
Uh-uh.
And we did this like thing called Battle of the Books, where like you have to pick a book and then you read it and then you have to write a report on it, basically. So I picked this book because the cover of it was alluring in and of itself. And it's like a redwood forest and a girl just like crouching down in this like just like canopy of redwoods. And I was like, ooh, that's so pretty. And it's basically about this girl who's trying to save this redwood forest from being like torn
Oh.
down. But there's like fantastical elements about it as well.
Oh, I
So
like.
it's a really cool book. Yeah, it's by T.A. Barron called The Ancient One. So if anybody wants to check that out, I'll put that one on our Goodreads because
Oh, I like
I'm
it.
due for a reread of that one. I haven't read it in a while, but I
The
just remember
ancient ones?
I just remember loving that book so much. I read it a couple times back in the day.
All right. So alchemy has had a long-standing relationship with art, seen both in alchemical text and in the mainstream entertainment. Literary alchemy appears throughout the history of English literature, from Shakespeare to J.K. Rowling, and also the popular Japanese manga Full Metal Alchemist. Here, characters or plot structure follow an alchemical magnus opus. In the 14th century, Chaucer began a trend of alchemical satire that can still be seen in recent fantasy works like those of the late Sir Terry Pratchett. Another literary work taking inspiration from the alchemical tradition is the 1988 novel The Alchemist by Brazilian writer Paulo Coelho.
Paulo Coelho. I read that book. Paulo Coelho. That's a really good book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Visual artists have had a similar relationship with alchemy. While some used it as a source of satire, others worked with the alchemists themselves or integrated alchemical thoughts or symbols in their work. Music was also present in the works of alchemists and continues to influence popular performers. In the last 100 years, alchemists have been portrayed in magical and magiric role in fantasy fiction, film, television, novels, comics, and video games. So I had not heard the word alchemy, I don't think, until I was in high school, embarrassingly. And it was through a witchy fiction book, actually, that was pretty good. You might like it. I read it a second time just to like, did I read this right? Like, I couldn't recall the ending, etc. But it was really good. It's called Season of the Witch by Natasha Moster. This is the little synopsis, and I think I just pulled like 2 or 3 quotes or excerpts from the book.
Yeah.
So Gabriel Blackstone is a cool, hip, thoroughly 21st century Londoner with an unusual talent. A computer hacker by trade, he is also a remote, able to slam a ride through the minds of others, but he uses his gift only reluctantly until he is contacted by an ex-lover who begs him to find her stepson, last seen months earlier in the company of 2 sisters. And so the only reason I started reading this because I was like, this is Sally and Jillian right here.
Oh.
And so Gabriel visits the monk house, a place where time seems to stand still and where the rooms are dominated by the coded symbols of a cross and circle. As winter closes in, Gabriel becomes increasingly bewitched by the house and its owners, the beautiful and mysterious monk sisters. But even as he falls in love, he knows that one of them is a killer. But which one? And what is the secret they are determined to protect? So one of the excerpts, I didn't take any page numbers. This says, alchemy. Frankie's voice went quiet. What about this? I don't know if I can do this. What
Sure.
about this? What? What's about?
That's what this is about, isn't it?
You. That's what this is about, isn't it? Personal transformation. Isidore looked at her, his gaze keen. Yes. You know all about that stuff then. Alchemy was one of Robbie's great passions. He read tons of literature about it. He always wondered why he had that thing tattooed on him. Gabriel looked at Isidore to Frankie and back again. He felt behind him as though they were speaking some foreign language, deliberately keeping him in the dark. But alchemy is turning lead into gold, isn't it? Isidore shook his head. That's only part of it. Alchemists are really involved in transforming the soul, even the body. There are reports of alchemists becoming immensely old, those who were poisoned by the chemicals they were handling, that is. like I thought alchemy was like witchcraft because like it's in this book. This is the first time I had ever heard of it, and I must have breezed over the it's turning metal into gold.
Right.
So I kept going. Another little excerpt says, well, to begin with, the sisters practice alchemy themselves, but the less esoteric kind. They make perfumes, beverages, and bath products based on the word that I cannot say we just talked about, principles. Spagriac, to separate and reassemble, break down the raw plant material into its active components, and then remix it along with the mineral residue, the alkaline ash, to become a whole, balanced entity again. And this was like, I think, like a written little thing. Like it wasn't any, it was like a notebook insert.
Okay.
It was talking about Agrippa, the German philosopher Agrippa, author of the alchemical treatise De Occulta Philosopher, was said to have paid his creditors with gold coins that shone with remarkable brilliance, but which invariably turned into slate or stone within 24 hours. So I thought that was
So that's all within that one book, all those things?
yeah. I just pulled the few little alchemical things that we talked about in this episode. I was like,
Right.
okay,
Nice.
okay.
Yeah. So, we've all heard of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I think that was the first book, right? The first book in the whole Harry Potter series. So in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry Potter destroys the Philosopher's Stone to prevent it from being misused. The stone is a legendary alchemical substance with magical properties that can turn metals into gold and create the elixir of life, which grants immortality. In the book, Harry is protected by a magical charm created when his mother died to save him. During a fight for the stone with Voldemort, Harry is knocked out and wakes up in the infirmary. Dumbledore tells Harry that the stone has been destroyed and that Voldemort escaped. The Philosopher's Stone is similar to the one in the legend, which is said to have been created by the real-life Nicholas Flamel. And Nicholas Flamel is also a character in Harry Potter, kind of like J.K. Rowling kind of does what Alice does. Like, she does use like real-life historical figures and then incorporates them into her fictional novel using magical elements, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Nicholas Flamel is also a character in Harry Potter, but he's a real life alchemist in history. So the next one I want to mention, the next book, is The Da Vinci Code, and we mentioned this earlier, the book by Dan Brown. And in the Da Vinci Code, the concept of the Philosopher's Stone, it's not directly mentioned, but the central mystery revolves around a similar idea of a hidden powerful secret. In this case, the bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, which is seen as a kind of, quote, holy grail that is being protected by a secret society, mirroring the alchemical pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone, which is believed to be a mythical substance capable of transmuting the base metals into gold and granting immortality. Both involve deciphering cryptic clues and symbols to uncover the truth, and legends say that the Holy Grail has the power to grant eternal youth, much like that of the Philosopher's Stone. And while both the Philosopher's Stone and the Holy Grail are legendary objects sought after for their mystical powers, they are not considered the same thing. The Philosopher's Stone is primarily associated with alchemy and the ability to turn base metals into gold, while the Holy Grail is a religious relic from Christian mythology, usually depicted as a cup associated with Jesus' Last Supper. So they are not directly interchangeable, despite sharing some thematic similarities as symbols of ultimate quest and perfection. And some key points to remember is that the Philosopher's Stone is a mythical substance in alchemy, believed to be able to transmute metals into gold and potentially grant immortality, while the Holy Grail is a legendary cup from Christian lore, often associated with the blood of Jesus Christ and sought after by knights in Arthurian legends. I'm wondering if they're talking about the Knights of Templar, because the Knights of Templar are a big motif throughout the Da Vinci Code, as well as this next thing I'm going to talk about, which is Broken Sword, which is a point-and-click adventure game from the 90s. And I believe this game was put out by LucasArts. George Lucas had his own like point-and-click adventure game company back in the day. I used to play all of these games by LucasArts. They're all so much fun. And in this game, George and Nicole, the main characters, investigate the Knights Templar and their quest for the Broken Sword. The Broken Sword is the Sword of Baphomet, which the Neo-Templars wanted to reforge. They discover that the Templars are traveling to a church in Bannockburn, Scotland, where they plan to acquire the power of Baphomet. George and Nicole destroy the church with explosives to stop the Templars. a secret organization that started with 9 noblemen but became very powerful over time. They were thought to have the Holy Grail, as well as other religious treasures like the Crown of Thorns. And then the next thing on this list is a podcast called Tanis. Tanis, Tanis. I am obsessed with this podcast.
Oh.
So this is actually a mystery pseudo-documentary podcast published by Pacific Northwest Stories, and it's part of their series of podcasts set in the same fictional universe such as The Black Tapes and Rabbits, which, despite being works of fiction, they are presented as legitimate true stories both within the podcast and outside of it. The podcast has no credited writers or performers, as the events and characters are framed as real, and the main character, Nick Silver, is voiced by executive producer Terry Miles. In the podcast, Silver undertakes a search to discover the meaning of Tanis, a word with unknown meaning that seems connected to various elusive individuals and organizations, leading him to unearth a web of conspiracies with the help of an internet information specialist known only as Mere Catnip. The concept of the Philosopher's Stone was featured on episode 105, A Rat, a Writer, and a Conspiracy Theory, in which the podcast host Nick Silver talks about Nicholas Flamel, an alchemist who discovered the Philosopher's Stone and achieved immortality. And I included the transcript here, so we'll include that in our show notes, and I'll also include the link to the podcast episode, but I think you guys should go listen to it from the beginning because it's so fucking fascinating.
That word Tanis, the only other word I've heard is Tanis root, the fake ingredient from Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe they're using that if it's a fake ingredient, maybe it's like a metaphor for this podcast is fake, but
maybe
it's based on all these real life conspiracy theories and weird happenings in history, and
that's kind of cool. I like
a lot
that.
having to do with alchemy and stuff like that. So give it a listen. It might be your alley. So the next thing on this list, I actually wrote a whole story based on concepts of alchemy and mythology.
Ooh.
And all of the music that I wrote with my band Stella Diora with Avi was based on this original story concept. So it's a whole friggin', I'm not even gonna get into it all. That's a whole story in and of itself. But I will include the link if anybody wants to go check that out. It's on stelladiora.com. So yeah, a lot of the music that we wrote and the lyrics and all the content is based on our concept. And we had characters and we had a whole storyline. And
Ooh, fun.
a lot of it had to do with alchemy and bringing. I was into a lot of Frankenstein when I was writing all this, and just bringing things back to life and the elixir of life and attaining immortality. So
you're a storyteller.
Yeah. And in closing, I just wanted to mention a couple other key figures throughout Alice's Practical Magic series that have strong ties to the mystical world of alchemy. But honestly, we have only hit the tip of the iceberg with this topic. This one goes deep. And I feel like each one of these topics could have their own entire episode.
Yes, ma'am.
So we mentioned a couple of these earlier. I think one of them was Agrippa, the Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, which was a significant figure in the history of alchemy, magic, and Renaissance. He has several contributions to alchemy. He was known for blending various esoteric traditions, including alchemy, Kabbalah, and Hermeticism, some of which we have talked about today, and his works sought to unify these traditions, creating a comprehensive system that influenced later alchemical thought. Do you remember the name Amelia Bassano?
Yes, ma'am.
The Book of Magic, right? Or was it Rules of Magic? I don't remember. Actually, I think it was Magic Lessons now that I think about it. She appears throughout the books, and Bassano's poetry often contains references to alchemical imagery and symbolism, reflecting the interests of the Renaissance, where alchemy was viewed not only as a proto-science, but also as a metaphor for personal and spiritual transformation. Her work may reflect the philosophical ideas of alchemy, particularly the transformation of the self and the pursuit of higher knowledge. And there's some rumors that she was actually Shakespeare.
Oh, she's going to be a fun episode.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. So we'll have to dive into that. And then the Magus, the occult book by Francis Barrett, the one that Vincent is carrying around throughout the Rules of Magic. And there's just so many more references, but those are just the few that I could think of off the top of my head right now.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg of alchemy.
Thank
in
you
a
for
nutshell,
coming to our TED Talk.
In an acorn shell. There we go.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
That is all we have for you guys today. Just a reminder, you can check out all of the sources pertaining to today's episode via our hero page. The link is in our show notes. And thanks again to our patron and Palmiers for creating this app and keeping creators like us organized. If you guys do want to support the podcast on Patreon, you can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's our seedling tier, and that gets you access to our patron-only polls where you get to weigh in on what topics you would like us to talk about next. It also gets you our monthly calendar so you can see what topics we have coming up for the month, and it also gets you a welcome shout out on the show. Our $3 Lavender Bud tier gets you our show notes for each episode in an aesthetically pleasing PDF, our after hours posts, if there's any extra tidbits or behind the scenes info pertaining to any of our episodes, we'll post those along with a blog post or extra photos, and access to our specially curated Spotify playlists. We have created playlists for our WMSR episodes as well as Production Dream playlists for each song episode, and more. Our $5 Lilac tier gets you access to our private Facebook community where we host a monthly live stream. Plus, you'll get access to our Discord server where we host our monthly watch parties. And also on the Discord, you can join in on the discussion with other Magnolia Street neighbors via the various interesting channels and threads. And then here's the $8 Rose tier. This gets you access to extra audio-visual content such as a once-a-month full-length video episode, unlimited bonus videos, uncut footage, cutting room floor footage, bloopers, outtakes, meditations, exclusive interviews, and old home videos from the vault, or spell or ritual videos, and more. It also gets you bonus content to coincide with our song-episodes, such as full-length demo streams of our original practical magic inspired music, plus lyric sheets, guitar chords, and original scratch demos, or bonus video performances of our songs and more. Lastly, we have our $15 Wisteria Vine tier. Just like a twisting Wisteria Vine, there's a way for you to stay connected with us, the Stinas. In this tier, we invite you to join our private Marco Polo video messaging app. The app is totally free for both Android and iOS. Sign up with your phone number or email, and we will help you do the rest. This is a great way to chat with each other in a more intimate group setting, face-to-face via video recording. We love to show each other our pets, our gardens, or anything else you'd like to share. And just a reminder that the higher the tier you sign up under, the more rewards you get, because you get all of the rewards of the tiers below it. You can upgrade or downgrade or even cancel at any time. So to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Yeah, and there are additional ways to support us and our podcast that don't cost you any money. If you do listen on Spotify, please give us a star rating. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. We love sharing those on our Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we would really appreciate any reposts or blurbs about our podcast. And make sure to tag us at Magnolia Street Podcast in your feed, posts, stories, and share us with your practical magic loving friends. Make sure to leave us a rating, please, on Apple Podcasts. You can write us out a little rating, give us some stars. And on Spotify, you can give us some stars, as well as check out below these episodes. Sometimes we post polls or just want to know what you thought about the episode. And then that gets published. And then you are on Spotify. Your words, your written word, it's on Spotify. And you can check out our merch, check out all of our show notes. Everything will be in the description, the links,
Yada, yada, yada,
Instagram, everything.
You guys know the deal.
Talk to us later. Email us, magnoliastreetpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to make that Halloween special episode work for you guys. That with the true crime thing that we might do.
We have to do that. Y'all, by the way, this comes out on November 1st. So happy Samhain to everyone. Hope y'all had a nice Sabbath.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. I'm Christina.
And we're going to go to sleep now.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you